Colleagues, good morning. I welcome you to this morning's session. I will appreciate if all of us are able to take our seats, please. We are going to start this morning with receiving a video message from the Prime Minister of New Zealand. And after that, we'll then start the debate on the Congress statement. And we should not forget the fact that we are allotting 3 minutes to each speaker. And I will urge speakers to please respect the time. Let me then invite all of us to please listen to a video message from the Prime Minister of New Zealand. Mr. Prime Minister.
Kia ora tātou katoa, ngā mihi nui kia koutou. Thank you for inviting me to speak today at the 5th International Trade Union Confederation World Congress. It's a privilege to be joining you, albeit virtually and albeit briefly. Unions play such a vital role in improving workers' wages, employment conditions, and in promoting social change. And I'd like to acknowledge the International Trade Union for all your work in this area. The way we think about work and the goals of the New Zealand Labour government are rooted in the values of our party. We believe everyone should have the opportunity to experience the dignity of decent work. And this is something we have continued to prioritise, alongside the well-being of our people, which has become one of the cornerstone reasons why we established, for instance, the practice of well-being budgets here in New Zealand. Government has a crucial role to play in ensuring that work is safe and that it enables people to support themselves and their families. For my government, that has meant improved access to paid leave entitlements, introducing paid family violence leave and paid bereavement leave for miscarriages, and increases to minimum sick leave entitlements. Last month, we passed into law a fair pay agreements system that enables unions and employer representatives to bargain collectively for occupation-wide minimum employment terms. This type of system won't be new to you. We anticipate will help to address low pay across industries and pave a way towards sufficient improvements to working terms and conditions for workers who have experienced a persistent lack of bargaining power in New Zealand. There are, of course, many challenges that we face. As we transition towards a high-wage, low-emissions economy, we must ensure that this is a just and equitable transition, that it doesn't leave behind vulnerable population groups, Māori, Pacific peoples, Indigenous, young people, and people with disabilities, that everyone has equal opportunities to participate in a strong economy. This is one of the reasons why we also continue to do what we can to promote a levelling up of workers' rights beyond our own borders, including in the free trade agreements we negotiate. A good example is our recent initiative to embed CEDAW into our FTA agreement with the European Union. Partnership between government and unions is crucial to all of this work. And I'd like to thank the ITUC and everyone here today for your tireless advocacy for workers. We are grateful for what you do. I wish you all the very best for the rest of the Congress. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Madam Prime Minister. Thank you. Colleagues, let me remind us once again, for those that want to take the floor to speak, by 9:30, the registration desk will be open, and therefore you can kindly walk there to register. And also, I understand the Standing Order Committee is making progress in its work, and they will revert back to us with their reports. So this morning, colleagues, let me try to start by inviting El Meloudi, UMT Morocco, to please come and take the podium, and Liz Joseph from CFTUI India should be ready.
Camarades présidents, camarades secrétaires généraux, chers congressistes représentant les organisations syndicales du monde, au nom de l'Union marocaine du travail, je présente mes sincères félicitations à notre camarade Sharon pour son leadership et le colossal travail accompli par le secrétariat de la CIC, notamment pendant la crise pandémique où le mouvement syndical international était resté vivace, dynamique pour répondre aux effets de la crise. Cette crise sanitaire qui a évolué vers une crise économique beaucoup plus grave que celle de 2009, une crise climatique et aujourd'hui une crise énergétique aux conséquences catastrophiques sur les économies et sur le pouvoir d'achat des populations dont beaucoup de travailleuses et de travailleurs ont été jetés dans la pauvreté et l'exclusion. Chers camarades, le mouvement syndical international peut faire et impulser un changement qualitatif pour répondre aux inégalités et discriminations qui se sont exacerbées à tous les niveaux. Inégalité entre catégories de travailleuses et de travailleurs, inégalité basée sur le genre, discrimination contre les migrants. Nous pouvons arrêter le processus de dégradation des relations de travail précarisant des millions de travailleuses et de travailleurs dans plusieurs secteurs d'activité. Nous devons, chers camarades, nous battre pour mettre fin à la dégradation des conditions de travail, imposer une transition juste, négocier des emplois décents, tourner vers l'avenir du travail que nous voulons. C'est le cœur même du contrat de travail que nous défendons et qui est l'objet de notre congrès. Au Maroc, le mouvement syndical et à sa tête l'Union marocaine du travail a engagé un dialogue social avec le gouvernement marocain et nous avons pu arracher et obtenir une augmentation du salaire minimum, une augmentation des pensions de retraite, une baisse de l'impôt sur le revenu et des augmentations salariales par secteur. Nous estimons que ces résultats sont en deçà de nos aspirations et restons mobilisés pour faire face aux tentatives de retour sur l'exercice du droit de grève que nous estimons un droit humain. Chers camarades, la justice sociale est inconcevable sans protection sociale universelle. Elle est inconcevable sans liberté syndicale pour laquelle nous luttons au quotidien. Chers camarades, nous n'arrêterons jamais de condamner l'occupation de la Palestine qui dure depuis plus de 70 ans et dont les premières victimes sont les travailleuses et les travailleurs palestiniens. Nous condamnons également l'invasion de l'Ukraine. Je vous remercie, chers camarades, pour votre attention. Merci.
Thank you, El Maloudi. Thank you. Thank you. I now invite Liz Joseph, CFTUI India, to come to the podium. Lizzie Joseph, CFTUI India. Then Gilbert, CSB Burundi, should please come forward. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I will return to that. And Michael from DGB Germany should be on standby.
Camarades congressistes, Je voudrais, au nom de la Confédération des syndicats libres du Burundi, CSB, et à mon nom propre, remercier très sincèrement Mme Sharab Barrow pour son leadership avec son équipe. Au cours de son mandat, nous avons constaté le renforcement du mouvement syndical à travers la mise en place ou l'adoption de nouveaux instruments juridiques qui nécessairement s'imposent pour nos revendications en milieu de travail. Nous remercions également la CSI sous le leadership de Sharab Barrow pour le renforcement de capacités qui nous cessent de réaliser auprès de nos organisations syndicales. Malgré tous ces efforts, nous constatons amèrement que le monde du travail connaît encore des déficits en matière de droits, en matière de travail décent. Telle se remarque généralement, comme on l'a dit, et je ne cesserai jamais de le répéter tant que ce phénomène est encore là, des multinationales qui se fient carrément des principes et droits fondamentaux au travail. Et cela se matérialise par la négation au syndicalisme où le leader syndical dans une entreprise est congédié du fait de ses actions syndicales, où le leader syndical est congédié pour des motifs inavoués, ne fût-ce que pour la réalisation des profits en faisant fi des intérêts des travailleurs qui sont les réalisateurs des économies de demain et d'aujourd'hui. Nous voudrions demander à la nouvelle équipe de la CSI qui va se mettre ensemble qu'ils puissent penser comment ces actions menées au niveau des entreprises, des actions antisyndicales, puissent se terminer à travers évidemment des actions de lobbying, des actions de plaidoyer qui doivent se mener en amont et en aval. Je vais dire ici de manière expresse, il y a des filiales, mais il y a aussi des entreprises mères. Les entreprises mères, si vous voulez, sont respectueuses généralement des principes et droits fondamentaux du travail, tandis que les filiales font des actions carrément antisyndicales. Là, la CSI est interpellée. La CSI Afrique est également interpellée pour mener des lobbying à haut niveau et pour qu'à notre place, nous continuons aussi à mener des lobbying. Le contrat social que nous concluons, que nous envisageons dans le monde syndical futur, comme tout syndicat, le contrat exige aussi les parties contractantes. Et parmi ces parties contractantes, je dois citer utilement les entreprises investisseurs. Je dois également citer le gouvernement. Ça ne peut pas être autrement. Ce statut ne peut pas se réaliser si les travailleurs, les employeurs et les gouvernements cheminent ensemble dans la vision d'une transition juste, d'une transition vers une économie verte et numéraire qui absolument exige de nouvelles compétences et de nouvelles opportunités d'emploi. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Gilbert. Thank you, Gilbert. I now invite Michael from GDB Germany.
Ja, Kolleginnen und Kollegen, Sisters and Brothers, heute ist ein wichtiger Tag auf diesem Kongress und ich möchte auch damit beginnen, Sharon Barrow zu danken. Danken dafür, dass sie ihr Leben den Gewerkschafts- und Frauenrechten gewidmet hat, sehr erfolgreich, aber auch danken, dass sie diesen Kongress so vorbereitet hat, wie er jetzt stattfindet. Ein großartiger Kongress auch im Vergleich und harte Arbeit liegt hinter uns. Und das Niveau und die Zielorientierung der Debatten hier zeigen, ernste Themen bewegen uns und ernste Themen brauchen unsere Stimme. Heute, liebe Kolleginnen und Kollegen, sind auch Wahlen der Spitze, zumindest der Beginn der Wahlen der Spitze der Organisation auf der Tagesordnung. Und wir haben, liebe Kolleginnen und Kollegen, 2 Kandidaten für die Funktion des Generalsekretärs. Und das zeigt, diese Organisation hat eine Pipeline von fähigen, erfahrenen Gewerkschafterinnen und Gewerkschaftern heute 2 Männer, 2 Gewerkschafter. Und wir sehen darin, und wir sollten darin sehen, ein Zeichen, dass unsere Organisation leistungsfähig ist und ein Zeichen für die demokratische Basis, für die demokratische Möglichkeit, hier auszuwählen zwischen 2 Kandidaten. Wir sollten das als Zeichen der Stärke sehen. Und unabhängig vom Ausgang der Wahlen müssen wir in der Zukunft weiter daran arbeiten, unsere Organisation zu professionalisieren. Als Präsident von Industry All Europe, der ich gleichzeitig bin, kenne ich beide Kandidaten aus langjähriger Erfahrung. Luca, der seine Karriere in Italien begonnen hat und den ich als Generalsekretär des ITUC kenne, und Kemal, der seine Karriere weitgehend und langjährig bei der globalen Organisation der Industriegewerkschaften verbracht hat. Und ein Punkt ist mir deshalb wichtig. Beide Kandidaten bringen ein Profil mit und beide können sicherlich die Organisation führen. Aber eins ist mir sehr wichtig. Wir haben hier beschlossen, und ich bin sehr, sehr großer Unterstützer dieses Punktes, dass wir ein Vorbild sein wollen bei der bei dem Gender Ratio. Und ich glaube, wir müssen dies eben auch bei diesen Wahlen fortsetzen. Und deswegen ein Punkt, den ich anrege, eigentlich für den nächsten Kongress in der formalen Vorbereitung. Ich kenne von Industry All Europe, dass wir in den Kongressen das gesamte Führungsteam wählen und dass wir wissen, wie ist sozusagen das gesamte Setup des Führungsteams zusammengestellt. Das wissen wir hier nicht, beziehungsweise formal wissen wir es zumindest nicht. Deshalb rege ich an, dass darüber nachgedacht wird, die Satzung zu verändern und dass wir zukünftig den Präsidenten, die Deputy-Generalsekretäre und natürlich die Generalsekretäre hier auf dem Kongress kennen und wählen. Und das Zweite ist, ich habe das selber auch in meiner eigenen Organisation,
Thank you very much.
Ja, in meiner eigenen Organisation, die immerhin eine Bergbauorganisation ist, durchgesetzt. Ich habe es bei Industry All durchgesetzt. Und es ist auch beim DGB durchgesetzt, eine wirkliche Gender Equality. Das wäre auch meine Bitte an die Organisation. Vielen Dank.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I now invite Chris Mong, Hong Kong LMR.
Brothers and sisters, my name is Mong Siu Tat. I come from former Hong Kong Confederation of Trade Unions. Our confederation was dissolved last year under the intensive political attack. Our chairperson, Kevin and our General Secretary, Lee Chuk-yan, are both in prison and being charged against the national security law. The Chinese government weaponized the national security law to suppress the labor movement and civil societies. We have done nothing to endanger the society, but to fight for democracy in an authoritarian state. We can never protect our workers' rights and our dignity without democracy. Democracy is the soul of the labor movement. As Brother Lee Chuk-yan said in a prison letter, despite losing freedom, I will insist that to fight for democracy is not a crime. The dictatorship is not only destroying Hong Kong, but also threatening the security and safety in the regional and global level. They are exporting exploitation and suppression of human rights to everywhere. They are challenging the fundamental value of the international labor movement. Let's take united action against totalitarianism. Although HKCTU is dissolved, our struggle for freedom and democracy will not end. The international labor movement is the most important force we can always rely on. With your support, we strongly believe that we are not alone, we are not isolated. With your support, we will continue our struggle until we win the democracy and freedom the Hong Kong people deserve. We don't know how long it takes for us to overcome the darkness. But one thing is for sure, the value we are upholding will live longer than the dictatorship. Workers united will never be defeated. Workers united will never be defeated. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. I now invite Plomen, CTBU, Bulgaria.
Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. After such a powerful speech, I will try to focus on the three issues. The first one, why we're here. We are here to fight for the new social contract, decent work, and social justice for all of us around the globe. And a main and a central piece of this fight, actually, is the labor protection flow, freedom of association, collective bargaining, but also minimum living wages and maximum working hours. So on that, we would and should rely on the ILO. And for the first time this June, we have a breakthrough on that. ILO is going to provide us with a research and definition for the minimum living wages, and we have to utilize this in our fight at national level. Second issue that I think really very important, and again related to the ILO work. ILO and this unique supervisory system should be protected by all of us, should be preserved and future developed. And on that fight, we have to consider, I have to keep in our mind that the employers in the ILO start to argue and to deny the collective bargaining rights for those that are not employees, for all those 60% of workers in a formal economy or in the platform economy or in a care economy. So all these fights should continue, and the first 2 points that we have to achieve in this fight is the ILO Convention on the platform work, which is very close. In March, governing body should decide on that to put in the agenda of 25th ILC a convention on a platform work to protect the workers there, regardless of their employment status, and of course to establish a rebuttable presumption for employment relationship for all workers working through platform. Second issue on a future work of the ILO Convention on the global supply chains. Global supply chains are actually a key issue for all of us, and justice, fairness along the supply chain is the key that we have to fight for the next years. And what is that for us in Central Europe and Eastern Europe? It means that to ensure equal pay for a work of the same value, but not only for gender, but for all workers working along the supply chain. And if I add €5 in my country, to know that the half of those euro will go for the wages in my country, workers in Bulgaria, despite of the multinationals' behavior. And that's the reason that we need for trans-border and cross-border collective bargaining, together with our brothers and sisters in the headquarters of the multinationals, and to fight for equal and fair distribution of the value added along the supply chain. And the last, brothers and sisters, I really want this to be said now here. In a collective bargaining, we are entering the new phase of fight. I just mentioned that the employers are arguing this, and after the right to strike that they contested in 2015, now we are facing with a new battle in the ILO, but also around the globe on collective bargaining. So the crucial issue for collective bargaining is, should be for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Plomen. Thank you. I now invite Mongwena John, Kosato, South Africa. Christiana CCOO Spain should be on the standby.
President, General Secretary Sharon, and Congress. I wish to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land we are meeting on today, the Ujiri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respect and their elders past and present. Comrades and compatriots, thanks to Sharon for your leadership in defense of the workers around the globe. Sharon, you were there when the frontline workers in the health, in education, and social services were there to confront this pandemic. We have seen you challenging the WTO to change and transform in order to making sure that the workers of the world and the people of the world are able to receive vaccine. The struggle for this social contract will not be over until such time that the WTO is able to transform and making sure that indeed the TRIPS waiver is achieved in order to make sure that developing countries and developing economies are able to develop their vaccine as we prepare for the pandemics of the future, which we don't know. And therefore, we need to build resilience of our health, resilience of education, and making sure that we are ready for the next disaster or any other pandemic. We want to thank you for that particular leadership together with your collective leadership of the ITCU. COSATU stands here today to say we support the social contract. We support the New Deal for the workers of the world. In order to do that, we are fully aware that the climate change is posing serious challenges, and it is going to erode the workers' income. It is going to affect our deferred income in the form of pensions, and therefore we have got to stand in solidarity with each other as the workers of the world in defense of our right, in defense of our wages, in defense of decent work. And we thank you, Sharon, for being there all the time to call for decent work and just transition. As COSATU, we stand together with the workers of the world in solidarity with all those who do not enjoy the right to freedom of association, the right to collective bargaining. And we thank you, Sharon. You were there when we were fighting for Lula, because we were very clear that the charges were concocted, and therefore we are happy and congratulate Brazil for today that Lula is the president of Brazil. And we want to congratulate the people of the world for standing in solidarity with the workers. But we want to raise one other issue, that is, we saw the escalation of violence against women during the pandemic. And it's something that as workers, we've got to stand in solidarity with each other and fight to end gender-based violence, to end sexual harassment in the workplaces. It is our duty, and together we have got to making sure that women can feel safe in their houses, women can feel safe at the workplaces, and they can feel safe anywhere where they want to be, because we are all equal, we are all human beings. And thank you to you, Sharon, for leading this particular thing.
Thank you very much.
And finally, let's correct that COSATU never fired any workers in the country. What we did was to stand with the victim of sexual harassment as a worker in COSATU when a leader has abused a worker in our offices. We thank you, and we are saying COSATU never left at ITCU, and we will stand with the vulnerable, and then we'll tell truth to power. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I now invite Cristiana, CCOO Spain.
Buenos días. Soy Cristina y no cristiana, pero bien. Saludos,
Okay,
saludos desde las Comisiones Obreras de España. Quiero agradecer, por supuesto, el trabajo realizado por Sharon durante estos años y le deseo éxitos al nuevo secretario general. Los retos que deberá enfrentar esta nueva etapa la CSI están claramente marcados por una disputa entre los dos modelos de organización social, con una escalada bélica provocada por la invasión rusa de Ucrania y por el cuestionamiento también del modelo de globalización económica, cuyos excesos hemos presenciado dramáticamente durante la pandemia. Esta disputa está entre avanzar hacia sociedades despiadadas, individualistas y mercantilizadas o hacia sociedades integradoras donde a través de un nuevo contrato social se afronten colectivamente las cuestiones sociales. Y en esta disputa, obviamente, el movimiento sindical internacional que representa la situación debe situarse claramente en el bando de los buenos, en el bando de las sociedades integradoras. El riesgo de los populismos de ultraderecha y fascistas es una realidad ya en muchos lugares del mundo y se está aprovechando esa desafección, el desánimo, la resignación para ofrecer respuestas fáciles a problemas complejos. Y el movimiento sindical, de nuevo, debemos construir estrategias para enfrentar este fenómeno, todos y todas unidos, porque los sindicatos somos clave para sostener la democracia desde el refuerzo de la conciencia de clase y el empoderamiento colectivo. Por ello necesitamos una CSI con un perfil sindical reivindicativo y movilizador, donde la negociación colectiva, los derechos fundamentales, la democracia, la paz, la lucha por el trabajo decente y un nuevo contrato social, así como la defensa del medio ambiente y la transición justa, pero también la redistribución justa de la riqueza y la justicia social, estén en el centro. Una CSI que represente a la clase trabajadora de todo el mundo, de todos los sectores y bajo cualquier modalidad de contratación. Una CSI plural, participativa, democrática en su funcionamiento y transparente en su gestión, que sea un verdadero actor sociopolítico clave para definir el nuevo modelo de desarrollo sostenible que queremos y que necesitamos, pero también una CSI solidaria con los múltiples conflictos mundiales y con los pueblos oprimidos y con los y las sindicalistas perseguidas y con toda la diversidad que es reprimida. La defensa de los derechos humanos, incluidos los laborales y los sindicales, debe centrar nuestra acción. Más que nunca necesitamos una CSI unida, aunque plural, porque múltiples son los retos que debemos enfrentar. ¡Viva el sindicalismo internacional!
Thank you, Christina. Thank you. I now invite Fred from Central Philippines to come to the floor. Okay, Joshua Fred, Central Philippines. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. We in Central fully agree with the Congress document when it said democracy is under attack worldwide, from the murderous repression in Myanmar to the imposition of authoritarian regimes in Hong Kong and Belarus. We can attest to this. After all, the Marcos restoration in the Philippines is part of an ongoing effort to reimpose authoritarian rule in the country 36 years after we kicked out his father. This authoritarian reimposition of authoritarian rule started when the Filipino working class made the mistake of voting into power a gangster called Duterte. Centro was completely alone when it issued a warning to the working class not to vote for Duterte in 2016, as he would surely go on a killing rampage. It was unfortunate that the rest of the labor movement either enabled Duterte, supported him for the first 2 years of his rule, or opted to stay quiet. Our warnings turned out to be prophetic. 20,000 to 30,000 people perished under the so-called war on drugs. Today, the killings continue. This should stop. As the biggest democratic movement in the world, we in the ITUC should be at the forefront of the fight for democracy, as we are. As such, we need to support all oppressed workers. But here's our key message for today. We'd like to emphasize the need for the global labor movement, to develop strategies on how we can actually empower the working class in Hong Kong and China. You have heard Brother Chris speak earlier, and I think we cannot do anything else but support them fully. I cannot imagine that we can emancipate the global working class without liberating the working class in Hong Kong and China. It is in this light that I would like to urge the Congress to support the emergency resolution, an emergency resolution that would call on the Hong Kong government, first, to immediately and unconditionally release all political prisoners, including trade union leaders such as Lee Chuk-yan and Carol Ng. We call on the Hong Kong government to scrap the national security law and cease all political suppression on civil society organizations, including independent trade unions. We call on the Hong Kong government to respect its international human rights obligations and recommendations of the recommendations of the international treaty bodies, such as the conclusions of the ILO Committee on Freedom of Association and the Committee of Application and Standards and the UN Human Rights Committee. I would also like to urge the Congress to express our grave concerns over the persistent suppression on the workers' rights and trade union rights in China and call on the Chinese government to respect workers' rights to freedom of association, collectively bargain, and to strike, to freedom of expression, peaceful assembly, and to observe all ILO core conventions.
Thank you very much.
Finally, I would like to support the call made earlier for the ITUC to set up a global network against fascism. Together, we will prevail.
Thank you, Joshua. I now invite Antonio Lisboa, CUT Brazil.
Bom dia. Vou falar em português e quero agradecer à organização do Congresso por nos dar a oportunidade de falar na nossa língua, que é sempre mais fácil do que nas outras línguas. Quero também registrar, companheiros e companheiras, que hoje no Brasil nós comemoramos o Dia da Consciência Negra. A população brasileira é formada em mais da metade por companheiros e companheiras negros que sofrem até hoje as mais sérias ameaças dos setores da elite brasileira e que, ao mesmo tempo, fazem uma luta de mais de 130 anos por sua liberdade, por garantia de direitos e garantia de igualdade. São as jovens e os jovens negros das periferias que mais sofrem da violência no Brasil. Mas são também esses essas jovens e esses jovens que têm, ao longo dos anos, transformado o nosso país num país mais de luta e um país de condições para todo o seu povo. Foi essa população, inclusive, fundamental nos últimos dias para que o presidente Lula pudesse ganhar as eleições e nós começássemos a resgatar outra vez o nosso país para o nosso povo. Portanto, viva a população negra brasileira. Eu quero, nesses outros minutos, pensar um pouco a respeito dos desafios que a gente tem como sindicalistas, como dirigentes sindicais e que teremos que trazer, para esse debate e levar para os próximos anos. Acho, companheiros e companheiras, que a gente tem muitos desafios. O primeiro já foi dito aqui, que é a luta por trabalho digno e direitos. Trabalho digno, direitos, salários e condições de trabalho para toda a população, para todos os trabalhadores e trabalhadoras do mundo inteiro. A luta por saúde de qualidade, inclusive para que a gente possa enfrentar as prováveis novas pandemias que virão nos próximos períodos. A luta por um novo modelo de organização sindical que seja capaz de dialogar com as novas classes trabalhadoras, ou a nova classe trabalhadora, especialmente os jovens que estão aí aos milhões nas grandes cidades, especialmente da América Latina, da África, do Sudeste Asiático, mas também da Europa, da Austrália, do norte das Américas, lutando para sobreviver sem as devidas condições de trabalho e sem um mínimo de direitos. Portanto, o nosso desafio como dirigentes sindicais, como líderes sindicais, é criar condições para que os nossos sindicatos possam efetivamente representar e organizar esses jovens trabalhadores. O fato é que nós tivemos grandes mudanças na produção capitalista do mundo, mas nem sempre nossa organização sindical foi capaz de seguir a essas mudanças para continuar enfrentando o capital, enfrentando as injustiças. Esse, portanto, é um grande desafio para a próxima direção do movimento sindical. Para concluir, Ayuba, eu não tenho como deixar de registrar aqui o nosso agradecimento, o agradecimento da CUT Brasil, o agradecimento do movimento sindical brasileiro, do povo brasileiro, por todo o apoio que nós tivemos de vocês durante esses últimos 7, 8 anos de crise no Brasil e que foi capaz, se tornou capaz de que nós enfrentássemos a extrema-direita no Brasil e fizéssemos novamente com que o presidente Lula fosse eleito. Nós sabemos da responsabilidade nossa agora. Sabemos que temos que resgatar o nosso país para o nosso povo, mas sabemos também que temos que levar de novo a nosso país, nosso movimento sindical, para apoiar e ser solidário, cada vez mais solidário e cada vez mais apoio ao movimento sindical internacional. Obrigado por tudo, estamos juntos e vamos continuar lutando. Obrigado, Ayuba.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I now invite Marie, UNSAS, Senegal.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to take the floor. Dear Presidents, dear comrades, all protocol observed, I would like you to allow me first congratulate the former ITUC team headed by Sharon Barrow. The job was not easy, but you succeeded. Viva Sharon, viva Ayuba, viva Momdou. My son Mamadou. On behalf of my General Secretary, Madame Bosok, who I'm representing today here, on behalf of Modi Giro, President of ITUC Africa, on behalf of Cheikh Diop, General Secretary of Synthèse FC Senegal, on behalf of Eliman Diouf, General Secretary of CSA Senegal, on behalf of Senegalese women, on behalf of African women, on behalf of women around the world, on behalf of my own name. I would like you to tell you that I agree with the Congress declaration and I agree with the new social contract. But I want you to allow me to emphasize on one point of the contract, the issue of violence against women and girls. In fact, UN Women Report 2022 shows that women are not in security in the world, and some countries are dangerous for women. It's very unbelievable. I will add that violence against women and girls is a pandemic which affects women, a pandemic which impacts negatively women's life more than COVID-19. This is why I want to call my brothers, my fathers, and my sons to join women on the ground to fight against this pandemic, to fight against rapes, against physical violence, to fight against psychological violence, to fight against harassment in the workplace and in the world. Please join us and to force also our government ratify the ILO Convention 119. To conclude, I would like to ask my dear leaders, my leaders men from different organizations to give to women a space in order to make them express the potentialities that lie in them for a new social contract, for a sustainable development in solidarity. Please, my dear leaders.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I now invite Luca, SGB, USS Switzerland.
Vielen Dank für die Möglichkeit, hier zu reden. Und als erstes im Namen des Schweizerischen Gewerkschaftsbundes ein großes Danke an Sharon Burrow und an den australischen Kolleginnen, aber gerade an Sharon Burrow für die Arbeit, die sie und ihr Team geleistet haben in den letzten Jahren. Ich habe den IGB nur mit Sharon Burrow gekannt. Ich habe die Arbeit mit ihr und dem Team sehr konstruktiv gefunden. Ich bedanke mich ganz herzlich für deine Arbeit. Tatsächlich sind wir hier mit diesem Manifest genau richtig, liebe Kolleginnen und Kollegen. Der IGB ist die größte Friedens- und Demokratiebewegung, Friedens- und Demokratieorganisation der Welt, wie ein Vorredner von mir das bereits bemerkt hat, Wolfgang Katzian. Die Menschenrechte und die Demokratie stehen heute unter Angriff. Sie stehen heute unter einem Angriff, denn ein Krieg gegen Menschenrechte ist ein Krieg gegen die Demokratie, ein Krieg gegen die Freiheit und damit ein Krieg gegen die Arbeitnehmenden, ein Krieg gegen die Gewerkschaften. Dieser Krieg ist nicht nur abstrakt oder ökonomisch, dieser Krieg ist sehr konkret, überall auf allen Kontinenten. Ich möchte hier beispielhaft, nicht abschließend, aber beispielhaft nennen, gerade aus meiner Region, die russischen Bomben, die russischen Angriffe auf die Ukraine, auf die ukrainische Souveränität, auf die ukrainischen Menschen, Kinder, Frauen und Arbeitnehmende. Und ich möchte hier auch den Krieg erwähnen, den das diktatorische Regime von Lukaschenko gegen die freien Gewerkschaften führt, gegen die belarussischen Kolleginnen und Kollegen, insbesondere Alexander Jaroschuk. Aber ich will auch an Hongkong erinnern. Es war sehr eindrücklich, vom Kollegen aus Hongkong zu hören, wie hier eine Demokratie vor unseren Augen von China zerstört wurde. Alexander Jaroschuk ist im Gefängnis, liebe Kolleginnen und Kollegen. Wir wissen das. Wir tragen hier dafür auch diesen Button. Es ist mir wirklich wichtig, den IGB zu bitten, eine Kampagne zur Befreiung von Alexander zu starten. Eine seriöse Kampagne, die auf die sofortige Freilassung von Alexander hinarbeiten muss. Es muss auch schnell gehen. Alexander geht es nicht gut und wir müssen ihn aus dem Gefängnis bringen, bevor es dort noch schlimmer wird für ihn gesundheitlich. Meine Solidarität geht an die Kolleginnen und Kollegen, insbesondere aus meiner Region natürlich, gerade sehr nahe an uns, an die Kolleginnen und Kollegen der Ukraine, auch der Moldawischen Republik, die sich im Moment in einer sehr schwierigen Phase finden. Und meine letzten Worte vielleicht zu den Abwesenden, liebe Kolleginnen und Kollegen. Es ist gut zu den Abwesenden, dass der FNPR nicht da ist. Und ich bin ganz unter uns gesagt auch froh, ist Michael Schmackhoff nicht da. Herzlichen Dank.
Thank you. I now invite Kwon-Ming Wing, CFL Taiwan.
各位世界劳工领袖，大家好。我是来自台湾中华民国全国总工会理事长温国民。今天我们所关心的是我们新的社会契约，就是要让我们更多的人来享受我们全球化的成果，让弱势群体能够得到保护，来坚持我们社会 公平正义，来促进我们人人平等，来获得我们发展的机会，来逐步建立我们权利公平、机会公平、规则公平、分配公平为主要内容的社会公平保障体系。今天放眼我们的世界，对于性别、还有种族、还有宗教越包容的国家，它的科技和它的金融就会特别的发展。其科技和金融往来就会更发达，这两者之间的关联度未来只会越来越强。其中的道理非常简单，人才聚集越集中的地方，硬实力就会越强。而对性别、种族还有宗教包容力越强的国家，我相信聚集世界人才就越容易。在这边，我来介绍我的国家，是台湾中华民国。目前外汇存底有5500亿美元左右，是世界排名第4位。不论我们国家的人均所得，或是人类发展的指数，均具有我们世界先进国家的水准。而且台湾拥有蓬勃发展的我们制造业，还有我们尖端科技，是半导体中供应链最大晶体代工基地。去年全球中，台湾晶体代工营收占据全球代工业总营收的60% 以上，还有我们的台积电独占54%，是全世界半导体、我们资讯科技、通信，还有我们电子精密制造等领域，都占有非常重要的地位。ITUC 大会的宗旨是新的社会契约，是基本内涵就是公平性的增长，要包容更多的人群和地区的增长。在新的契约下，经济增长所汇集的就应该由世界各国所分享，这就是 ITUC 所强调的公平正义的精神。在座各国都非常需要建立一个非常优质和完善的劳工政策，才能落实保障我们所有的劳工的权益还有福利。
Thank you。
就例如我们中华民国，我们的劳工政策有职业灾害保护法、两性平等法、劳保基金，还有我们的失业抢救基金等，才能够让我们的劳工能够安居乐业，再创经济奇迹。在此非常感谢 ITUC。Thank
you，
我们总会为全世界的劳工努力而付出，终于看到开花结果。最后，祝福我们所有的劳工领袖们身体健康，万事如意，大会圆满成功，劳工胜利，劳工万岁！谢谢。
Thank you， 谢谢。I now invite Abdul Qadir Abdul Karim, CFBTU Bahrain.
الإخوة والأخوات، قيادة الاتحاد الدولي للنقابات تحية نقابية من عمال البحرين ومن الاتحاد العام لنقابات عمال البحرين. اليوم ونحن نشهد انطلاق الحدث العالمي المتمثل في كأس العالم بقطر، لابد أن نتذكر ملايين العمال الذين عملوا لسنوات من أجل هذا الحدث، فأنتم من يمثل العمال ولا بد من حماية جميع من ساهم في هذا الإنجاز العظيم. اليوم ونحن نجتمع في ملبورن باستراليا ومن خلال المؤتمر الخامس للاتحاد الدولي للنقابات الذي يتبنى شعار عقد اجتماعي جديد. لابد أن نطالب بالدفاع عن المحرومين والعمال المضطهدين الذين لم تنفعهم كل الاتفاقيات والتوصيات على مدار عقود من الزمن، وذلك بسبب ظلم الإنسان لأخيه الإنسان والرغبة الجامحة على الاستحواذ على المستوى الحكومات والشركات وحتى الأفراد. والمثال الأبرز أن الغني يزداد غنى والفقير يزداد فقراً، والمثال الأوضح على الظلم هو الاحتلال الصهيوني لأرض فلسطين الذي يجب أن يدان من الجميع. فلا يجوز أن نكون في القرن 21 ويستمر احتلال لأرض وشعب، ونتمنى أن يعم السلام والتنمية المستدامة والعدالة الاجتماعية للجميع. اليوم نحن مطالبون لانتخاب قيادة جديدة للاتحاد الدولي للنقابات بعد أن استمرت النقابية شارون بارو على رأس الاتحاد لدورتين قامت بجهد مميز لزيادة العضوية والحد من تداعيات فيروس كورونا على العمال. القيادة الجديدة للاتحاد مطالبة بإعادة التوازن للطرف العمالي في المعادلة الثلاثية ليتحقق مستقبل العمل والعدالة الاجتماعية والتنمية المستدامة. الإخوة والأخوات، ليكن شعارنا الدفاع عن المظلوم في أي مكان من هذا العالم، فأما أخ لك في الدين أو نظير لك في الخلق. ولننبذ جميع الحروب والنزاعات التي منشأها ظلم الإنسان لأخيه الإنسان، ولنحافظ على البيئة التي تتعرض لأسوأ أنواع الاستغلال، ولنتوحد تحت راية ITUC الحر الديمقراطي المستقل نحو عقد اجتماعي عادل للجميع. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Thank you, Abdul Karim. I now invite Paul Nowak, TUC, United Kingdom.
Sisters, brothers, Congress, I'm delighted to bring you best wishes and solidarity on behalf of the TUC. And I want to start by thanking Sharon and her team for the incredible work they've done over the last 4 years and in pulling this Congress together. And I want to thank, too, our hosts, the ACTU. How inspirational is it to be in a country where the trade union movement has helped elect a Labour government working with unions now to extend collective bargaining to boost pay and rights at work, because that's a slightly stark contrast to what is happening in Britain, where we've had a chaotic Conservative government that's presided over a decade of falling wages, cuts to our public services, attacks on unions, and dangerous and divisive culture wars. And that's really the context in which I make 3 points directly related to the statement. The first is I want to reiterate the commitment made in the statement to defend the right to strike, a right that is under attack in countries around the world and is under attack in the UK as well, where our government is insistent on further restricting this fundamental right. And it's perhaps not surprising that they're going after the right to strike, because something is stirring in Britain's workplaces. Right now, and in recent months, we've seen hundreds of thousands of workers exercise that right to strike. Postal and telecom workers, railway workers, university lecturers, dockers, bus drivers, and many more. And hundreds of thousands of more workers are now voting or have already voted to take strike action as well. Teachers, midwives, civil servants, Amazon workers. And so I would like this Congress to send a message to each and every one of those workers and to workers around the world who are exercising that right to strike. We defend your right to strike. Your fight is our fight. And in solidarity, together, we can win.
Thank you, Paul.
The second point I want to make is to welcome the ITUC's commitment to building a bigger, stronger, more representative, diverse trade union movement, a movement capable of winning in workplaces, in securing the political change that our members need, and that can put the voices of workers at the heart of meeting the big challenges that we face, whether that's tackling climate change or the global economic crisis, securing peace, democracy and social justice, or taking on the far right and the politics of division. But if we're going to build that bigger, stronger, more diverse trade union movement, we need to be prepared to challenge ourselves as well, to invest more in organising, to address the inequalities in our own organisations, and to build a trade union movement for all, people of all races and nations, men and women, gay and straight, working class people all around the globe in all of their wonderful diversity as demonstrated in the hall here today. My final point is this. We know that just as workers are stronger when they come together in unions, and unions are stronger when they come together industrially and nationally, we are all stronger as part of a united ITUC family. And this week we'll elect a new leadership. It's important we get behind that new leadership, and it's important that we build that unity. Because as Guy Ryder warned us on Friday, we should never take unity for granted. We have to commit to it, we have to work for it, we have to live it. A united ITUC, a fighting ITUC, an ITUC that can win for working people. Solidarity Congress, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. I now invite Nkole, ZCTU Zambia, to take the floor. Avita should be on standby.
Thank you, Comrade Chairperson. Thanks, General Secretary, President. Thank you for the good work you are doing for the labor movement. And thanks very much for a well-organized Congress. I take the pleasure on behalf of the Zambia Congress of Trade Unions to join the debate in favor of a new social contract. We have all come to the realization that despite the formation of the ILO more than a decade ago, global peace has remained a challenge to achieve, and worse still, inequality and vulnerability have been on the rise. The world over, it's been difficult to meet universal social protection, which remains a challenge, and therefore the need to develop appropriate social protection systems. Occupational health and safety should be recognized as a fundamental right to make a vital contribution to public health, especially after the COVID-19 crisis that exposed our fragile health systems. We call for a human-centered recovery from the COVID-19 crisis that is inclusive, sustainable, and resilient. As we transition to recovery, we need to recognize the centrality of employment and creation of decent and secure jobs. It is essential for governments to consider full employment to be a core policy objective for all towards recovery. We insist on the need for adequate investment in education and training in order to realize SDG 4 for inclusive, equitable, and quality education and to promote lifelong learning possibilities for all. The rising and unsustainable public debt in most developing countries is taking away the resources needed to support social spending. Therefore, we call for debt relief and action by the international financial institutions to create the fiscal space necessary for developing countries to establish universal social protection. We also recognize that the ever-increasing power of corporations and their dominance over governments is at the root of denial of workers' rights. For this reason, we have to reinvigorate the collective power of trade union organizing and solidarity. We have to invoke the power of social dialogue and collective bargaining as effective pathways for promoting social justice and achieving inclusive social and economic progress. Collective bargaining is central to redistributing wealth and therefore ensuring that every worker has the right to join a union and bargain collectively is crucial to rebuilding living standards. Governments should also fulfill their obligations under ILO Convention 98 to promote and enforce the right to collective bargaining. We further recognize that existing inequalities at work, in society, and the economy have been severely exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. The growing gender pay gap also remains a global challenge because it perpetuates vulnerabilities of women. Therefore, there is need to strengthen trade union membership and collective bargaining, which remains a powerful means to address the gender pay gap and other forms of discrimination against women. We have all realized that the current global economic model has continued to perpetuate poverty and vulnerability within and among poor countries. While the gap between the poor and the rich has kept increasing, therefore we join in the demand for fundamental reform of the global economic system, including better woods institutions to enable development and inclusive for all. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Colleagues, let me remind those that want to register to speak on Monday and Tuesday that the registration desks will remain open up to 11 a.m. And I encourage those that want to take the floor to please proceed and register, especially our youths and women who want to hear your voices. Let me then give the floor to Avital.
Thank you. Good morning, dear sisters and brothers, and shalom. First of all, thank you for the great hospitality and Congress here in beautiful Melbourne. Thank you, Sister Sharon and your team. Thank you, Brother Ayuba, for your dedicated and invaluable work. We are proud to be members of the ITUC and protect all workers who are being employed in the Israeli economy, regardless of their origin, sexual preference, sex, religion, or political belief, out of clear understanding that you must care for every worker and their rights. Since March 2020, we had to tackle one of the most challenging periods. During the COVID-19, we strive to have all workers, including migrants and Palestinian workers, providing inter alia financial assistance, PPE, and vaccinations. COVID-19 did not prevent us from negotiating new sectoral collective agreements in construction, health professions, security, cleaning, catering, caregivers, and others, and package deals that raises, inter alia, the minimum wage from $1,500 to $1,800. One of the major activities which coincides with the statement is gender equality, women empowerment, fighting against the gender wage gap, and encouraging women, especially young women, to join the unions, employees committees, and negotiating teams that negotiate collective agreements. A major fight we held in the last 4 years was a fight against domestic violence, which unfortunately was aggravated dramatically during the COVID-19. We held demonstrations, campaigns, and seminars, operate a hotline against violence, harassment, and economic abuse, and call on the new government of Israel to ratify Convention 190. Last, but definitely not least, focusing on protection of rights of non-Israeli workers in general and Palestinian workers in particular. We continue to protect the Palestinian workers' rights in various ways, translating their collective agreement and distributing booklets of their rights. We continue to hold and broaden the scope of the grievance committees in which ensure workers' rights on the spot without waiting and having to go to court. We hold vocational training on workers' rights and health and safety for thousands of Palestinian workers in construction, hotel, and industry sectors. This year, we joined hands with our brothers and sisters from DGB, Germany, and ELO, Sweden, to train Palestinians in the industry sector. Danke, dear Yasmin Fahimi and Andreas Boch. Tack så mycket, Susanna Gordonsson and Oscar Eneroth. And dear colleagues, for the appreciated cooperation and solidarity to promote the workers' knowledge, which is power. Thank you for promoting the peace between the Israeli and Palestinian peoples and unions through the Palestinian workers who are a bridge to peace. Thanks for supporting us to create the mandatory trust between the Israeli and Palestinian peoples that can progress our dream to achieve a peace resolution between our peoples and establishment a Palestinian state alongside the State of Israel as part of implementing our shared vision of a two-states for two-people solution that we strongly support. These are the way to create peace and understanding. These are the way to lend solidarity and comply with ITUC ideology and the new social contract, and we look forward to enhancing our cooperation. Lastly, Congress, I take this opportunity and call you and the new ITUC leadership to join us and embrace the Histadrut and PGFTU initiative and help us to build a stronger bridge of knowledge, a safe haven for workers' rights, and the pathway to peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Avital. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Colleagues, Please, I will invite you to take note of these two very important announcements. All of us will recall that at lunchtime, we'll have the election of the General Secretary, and the procedure will be outlined fully at the end of the speeches by the two candidates. But leaders of delegation will actually need their IDs for the election process. So in case you have not been able to come here with your ID, you need to please go and get your ID before the voting time. And also you need an electronic device, maybe your handsets, an Android or a computer for that process. So please, it's a very important announcement which I want all of us to take note of. The second one is the fact that we need to be here by 9 a.m. prompt tomorrow because the Prime Minister of Australia, we need to be here please by 8:45 because we expect to receive the Prime Minister of Australia by 9 prompt. And therefore we need to be seated tomorrow please by 8:45. Please take note of these important announcements so that we can act accordingly. Thank you very much for your understanding. I now invite Usman, KESK Turkey, to take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Dear brothers and sisters, dear comrades, first of all, I would like to thank Sharon and all other colleagues for what they have done so far. And I would like to thank for the recent message on the occasion of the recent attacks, bombing attacks in Istanbul. I would like to commemorate those who lost their lives in recent attacks. There are several crises at the global level, and my country, Turkey, is not free from these crises. There is this political crisis, which I mean the government has not internalized the trade union rights and freedoms and trade union demands. There are economic crises, which are also related to this economic crisis at the global level and also in my country. And there are also legal crises in the country and the judicial crisis. What do I mean by political crisis? When they design the system, for example, when they discuss the budget, they do not pay attention to trade union demands. They do not pay attention to the public services, quality public services for all. That means women, children, refugees, LGBTIQ, Kurds, Arabs, Christians, etc. And when we ask these demands, they just ignore what we are saying. There is also this economic crisis because when they allocate these budget lines, they give money to the companies, not to the public services, not to those who are in need of these services. For example, during the COVID-19, they asked people to stay home, but there were and there are still homeless people. So we should see this contradiction. While there are homeless people, how come this social state says you must stay home? There must be certain relations and certain issues as regards to the right to accommodation. And when we ask our demands and when we take initiatives, when we take the streets, we as the trade unionists, then we see that either governors ban our activities and our demonstrations, or when we insist on taking the streets, they immediately intervene, and in some cases, we are arrested, we are beaten, and then we are sent to prisons. Unfortunately, as we see in the case of Belarus, I have colleagues who are in prison for carrying out legitimate trade union activities. On the day of my flight to Melbourne, I went to the courtroom first in the morning and then came here. Next hearing will be on 28th of December. What we see, as regards to this crisis, of course we have certain solutions. As regards to the political crisis, we have our trade union demands. So the whole system must be based on our trade union demands and freedoms. As regards to the economic crisis, we have our demands as regards to the public services, as regards to the social dialogue. As regards to the legal crisis, the judicial crisis, we ask accountability, rule of law, and effective remedy for those who are taking initiatives, for those who demand all these, not the judicial harassment. So my point is, we have colleagues who are in Turkey, who are unable to leave the country. We have colleagues who are in exile. We have colleagues who are in prison, unfortunately. We do our best to achieve all these trade union goals, all these achievements, and we must act together. We must act in coordination, and we must have more allies within the whole movement. Thank you, comrades.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Usman. I now invite Guy Kolela, CSC Congo Democratic, to take the floor.
Avant toute chose, nous voulons joindre à tous nos prédécesseurs qui ont défilé devant cette tribune pour remercier le peuple australien et en particulier celui autochtone pour l'accueil combien chaleureux que nous bénéficions. Nous profitons de cette présence du haut de cette tribune pour remercier la CESI pour la solidarité manifestée à la République démocratique du Congo à l'occasion de la marche mondiale qui avait comme point de chute Bukavu, où nos agresseurs enterraient nos femmes, sœurs, frères et enfants vivant, voire éventrer les femmes enceintes. En plus de la marche, il y avait la visite de l'hôpital de Panzi pour soutenir les femmes victimes de violences sexuelles qui sont suivies par le docteur prix Nobel Mukwege. Applaudissant à sa juste valeur cette solidarité mondiale, cette situation que nous déplorions demeure encore. Malgré les actions syndicales menées par votre syndicat, cette situation continue à déstabiliser non seulement la population en général, mais les milliers de travailleurs qui ont abandonné leurs activités. De ce qui précède, nous retenons d'un temps fort, à savoir la SIG, le travail abattu à la CESI, et particulièrement c'est en faveur des autochtones en rapport avec la Convention 169. Et au moment où nous sommes en congrès, notre Parlement venait d'adopter et publier la Convention 169 en faveur, chez nous, des Pygmées. Nous avons aussi été inspirés de la richesse du discours du Président sur la thématique « Un nouveau contrat social ». En effet, la RDC est en train de négocier un pacte social avec les différentes couches de la société, notamment les organisations syndicales, qui, au cœur de leur action, luttent en faveur de la création des emplois, de la couverture santé universelle pour tous, de l'abolition du travail des enfants dans les mines, du réchauffement climatique dont la RDC est une alternative, pays solution avec les tourbières, de la transition de l'économie informelle vers celle formelle, un défi majeur chez nous, de l'éducation de base pour tous, qui est un élément clé pour le développement d'un pays. Toutes choses restant égales par ailleurs, on peut avoir autant d'ambition dans un pays agressé. En effet, on parle de l'Ukraine, de la Syrie, de l'Afghanistan, de la Libye, de l'Érythrée, du terrorisme dans le Sahel, mais on oublie, on ne veut pas parler de la RDC, victime de l'agression et du terrorisme du M23, soutenu par un pays voisin, le Rwanda. Aussi, la RDC est victime d'un complot international qui ne dit pas son nom à cause de ses richesses, et demandons à nos camarades de s'impliquer auprès de leurs autorités politiques afin de mettre fin au cycle de guerre à l'est de la RDC. De ce qui précède, tout azimut, comme un seul homme, n'aménageons aucun effort pour protéger nos frontières et aucun mètre carré ne sera cédé à qui que ce soit. J'ai dit.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I now invite Joel from Kut, Honduras. And Shakil from Bangladesh will be on standby.
Buenos días, estimados delegados y delegadas del 5º Congreso de la CSI. Soy portador de un fraternal saludo de las federaciones y sindicatos afiliados a la Confederación Unitaria de Trabajadores de Honduras, CUT. A la vez, patentizamos nuestro agradecimiento a Sharon por su apoyo incondicional en momentos difíciles durante la terrible narcodictadura y durante la pandemia del COVID-19. No cabe duda que sus visitas a respaldar nuestras tareas de organización en las plantaciones de melón de la zona sur del país nos fortaleció y nos animó muchísimo. Usted fue testigo in situ de todas las violaciones a nuestros derechos y a la seguridad social por una empresa transnacional. También fue testigo de la violación que sufrimos en Honduras durante los 12 años de la narcodictadura. Pero la resistencia sindical organizada junto al pueblo finalmente triunfó en las calles y ahora también en las urnas. Gracias, Sharon. De verdad, millones de gracias por su respaldo total. Respaldamos totalmente a la CSI en el proceso de luchar por un nuevo contrato social que nos restablezca nuestros derechos mancillados, trabajo decente, evitar la precarización laboral y la criminalización de la protesta social y pacífica. Necesitamos que se respete la libertad sindical y la contratación colectiva. Es urgente que desde la CSI, de manera planificada y estratégica, se luche por la ratificación del convenio 190 y 189 en nuestro país. Que se nos devuelva la esperanza. Nos solidarizamos con todos los pueblos originarios del mundo y exigimos a los gobiernos el respeto al convenio 169 de los pueblos indígenas y tribales y abogamos por una verdadera consulta previa, libre e informada. Que viva la unidad de la CSI, que viva la clase obrera del mundo, no al fascismo criminal y sí a la paz del planeta. Hasta la victoria siempre, compañeras y compañeros.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you. We appreciate. Thank you. Shakil, Bangladesh, you have the floor.
Very good morning. My name is Shakil Akhtar Chaudhary, representing trade unions in Bangladesh, where 76 million workers are fighting for their lives every day, fighting to protect their rights every day. I am carrying their loves, their affections to all of you who are representing their own countries in this Congress. Thank you once again. Dear Chair, distinguished guests from all over the world, I thank you on behalf of the ITUC BC, the mainstream trade union federations in Bangladesh. We congratulate the Congress statement presented by Sister Sharon Barrow. We also acknowledge her dynamic leadership over the years around the world to protect workers at workplace. The statement covers the democracy, equality and inclusion, human dignity and prosperity, etc. Bangladesh, having 65 million workers who are facing a couple of challenges, including right to organize and collective bargaining, occupational safety and health. Some of you can remember the Rana Plaza accident where 1,137 people died in a single accident in only 10 years before. There are many more. Elimination of child labor, migration, women mainstreaming are few of those. For men join the union is a serious issue. With the dynamic steps taken by the ITUC, the government of Bangladesh is initiating steps to follow ILO roadmap and European Union National Action Plan to minimize barriers of formation unions at workplace. We are closely monitoring and we are taking part in the process. Still long way to go. Now, we need to focus on many issues which are emerging.
Thank you.
After a long time. Anyway, I'm just a few seconds. ITUC has a significant contribution for the migrant workers in Qatar. The migrant workers in Qatar is comparatively better than before. And we can now proceed in the other destination countries as well. We urge to the ILO to raise the issues of migrant workers in the next ILC 2023. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shakil. Thank you. I now invite Ajula from BSPSH Albania.
Dear delegates, dear colleagues, I hope that this Congress will bring attention to the Balkan region. No one should be left behind. We are also facing in Albania the crisis after COVID-19 and also from the crisis from the war in Ukraine. Also, I want to inform you that Albania is ranked in the first countries in the world that has ratified C-190 ILO Convention. It's crucial that in the new social contract, the attention should be to the right to be organized through the collective agreements and ensuring equality and eliminating gender-based violence through the collective agreements. BSPSH has played a crucial role for the ratification of this convention. And, of course, with the support of FEL-CIO, of Solidarity Center, of ITUC and PERC. BSPSH will be also the guardian for the process of the implementation of this convention in Albania. And from this podium, I take the case to lobby and also to call to other countries from the PERC Women Committee to ratify as soon as possible the Convention C-190 ILO Convention. Also, BSPSH is fully support for the process of the integration and accession in the European Union, where the focus should be also for the workers' right, for the freedom to organize and collective agreements, including vulnerable groups and women, also immigrant workers. Due to the latest developments, BSPSH stands and fully supports the new future for democracy process in Brazil with the legendary victory of Lula. We stand and we support the people who fight for the democracy and peace, like the people in Iran. We stand further with the people in Belarus. And we stand strongly, our commitment is with the women in the Ukraine for the freedom and peace. I want to say from this podium, glory to the women in Ukraine, glory to peace and victory. The freedom and peace must be very soon in these countries because the world deserves the peace. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Colleagues, we are going to pause to receive a statement and message from Connie Rauter, one of the very progressive organizations that have been working with ITUC over the years. It's therefore my honor and privilege to invite Connie Rauter, Progressive International, to address his address to the Congress. Thank you.
So, delegates, let me introduce to you a very good friend and somebody who stands staunchly by our side on all issues. Connie is, in fact, the coordinator of the Global Progressive Alliance, which is the political parties that share our values. And you all know that we need to fight for democracies where the value set we all shared is in fact the value set of our political partners as well. So Connie is an incredible ally, as I said. He stood beside us, absolutely introducing to others the social contract, just transition, gender equality, pick an issue, and Connie stands with us. So Connie, we're delighted you're amongst us. The floor is yours.
Wow. Oof, I have to, well, comrades, friends, brothers and sisters, sisters and brothers, it's a particular honor for me to have the opportunity to take the floor here at this stage at your Congress on behalf of the Progressive Alliance, not the Progressive International.
No, the Alliance.
The Alliance, because there is a lot of confusion. We have the Progressive in the European Parliament, we have the Global Progressive Forum, the Progressive Alliance, and the Progressive International. What is the Progressive Alliance? The Progressive Alliance is a platform, cooperation platform of 120 social democratic, socialist, and progressive parties all over the world. So we are the political equivalent to the ITUC, and therefore it's a particular pleasure. It's also a responsibility to take the floor here. Like Sharon said, yes, there are many issues on which we have to work together. My engagement is that if we speak here on a new social contract, that this is not only something which happens here in Australia, here in Melbourne, in a country where we're just winning the elections through our founding member, the Australian Labour Party, but that we continue to promote this idea and this project of a new social contract in Africa, in Asia, in the northern part of from here, also in Latin America and in Europe. Why? Because several comrades have said it. The big challenge of today is it's not that we have only some threats on democracy in some countries. It is not only that we have a war now in Ukraine, we had war in Syria, we have war in many parts of the world, we have also military coups, 5 military coups in Africa. The question is, there is a real risk that our societies break away. And in order to prevent this breaking away, we need to work together between progressive political parties, trade union movement, and progressive civil society. And this is why a new social contract is so much needed. And this is why it is much more than only a trade union agenda. Let me say this. Concerning the international solidarity, yes, the times of crisis, we have been going through all this with the pandemic. And with the pandemic, we learned also that even if we speak on international solidarity, when it comes to issues like the patent waiver, like the production of vaccines outside of the northern part of the hemisphere, there was a little bit reluctance, hesitance, and there was not this clear solidarity, what we expressed if we could, to say nobody is safe if not everybody is safe. This brings me to the point that also we have to learn concretely what does it mean not only to claim solidarity and to sing solidarity wherever, but to put it in practice between the different continents, between the North and the South, the East and the West, because only together we can make sure that we achieve social progress. And the commitment is here. From Progressive Alliance side, we will continue to be alongside with you, not confounding the roles. And in particular also, let me say this, it is so important that you are not only an interlocutor for progressive parties when it comes to elections, because this is not on winning on elections, it is on organizing. And organizing means also organizing membership of political parties, of progressive parties. It means organizing also in progressive civil society and to have a large gathering by listening to you, because if somebody knows what is wrong in our societies, this is the trade union movement, and this is why progressive political parties need to listen to you, work with you, they need your consultants, and they need to be alongside with you. This is my message. So let's stand in solidarity, let's work together. As we did in the past, we will continue to do so. For me, it's also once in a lifetime to speak here. Mandates come to an end, mine will also end next year. but all over the last 15 years, we have been working closely together, also on a personal level, in my former responsibility as Secretary General of Solidar. Just yesterday, we had the Silver Rose to the trade union leader in Hong Kong. And when it came, it was very clear for us at every stage, there is a necessity of this famous triangle: political parties, trade unions, progressive civil society. It is not the Bermuda Triangle, but it can be the winning triangle. And therefore, good luck to you. Let's stand in solidarity. Thank you for your support. Thank you for inviting me. And la lucha continua. Gracias.
Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Tony. We appreciate it. Thank you. Colleagues, we will now return to the debate on our statement, and I will now invite Emmanuel Ubuaja, NLC Nigeria.
Well, I'll start by acknowledging the custodians of the land on which we are meeting and greet the leaders, both past, present, and emerging. I bring solidarity greetings from the working people of Nigeria to the rest of the world for giving massive cooperation to our ambassador, Brother Ayuba Waba, and also to the General Secretary, Sister Sharon, for the able way they have piloted the affairs of ITUC in the past 4 years. Our take is on the need for unity amongst the workers of the world, genuine unity, unity that will see cooperation across the regions, cooperation from Serbia to Nigeria, from Kenya to Montenegro, and genuine unity that doesn't only come 4 years seeking for elective positions. We identify with the message that talks about the attack on democracy, and therefore agree that there is a need for re-strategizing on how the working people can confront this attack. For us in Nigeria, the challenge of attack on trade union rights, particularly the right to strike, is right in our faces. The tertiary education unions for the past 9 months were on strike, and schools were shut. Higher education was challenged in Nigeria, and up to this moment, no salaries have gotten to the teeming lecturers. So for us, it's real. It's not an imagined situation. So we feel that the way to go is to really challenge the numbers we have with regards to political power, and therefore organize to make sure that genuine worker-friendly political parties or workers' organizations form political parties. And the NLC in Nigeria has taken the bull by the horn. We have a Labour Party formed by the working people in Nigeria, and hopefully by February next year, when we go to national elections, Nigeria should be looking in the direction of Brazil, in the direction of New Zealand, in the direction of Australia, to be the next workers' party to take over at the national level. So we are committed to this cause with regards to inclusiveness, with regards to the challenge of empowering women. The C-190 has been ratified in Nigeria after a lot of struggle from the working people of the country, and therefore we identify with aspirations of ITUC, we identify with aspirations of the working people of the world, and our call to you is let's unite. And with us, a united working front, we cannot go wrong. I thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ima Ubuaja. Thank you very much. I now invite Mamadou Rabini, CNTM Mauritania.
السلام عليكم رفقائي الكرام رفيقاتي الكريمات، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. بهذه المناسبة أعرب لكم جميعاً عن حبي لكم وعن استعدادي للتعامل والتعاون معكم جميعاً أيها الإخوة والأخوات. إنني مسرور فخور بوجودي بينكم، وهي مناسبة لأعرب عن شكري لهذه القيادة الرائعة بقيادة الأمين العام شاران بارو وهذا الفريق الرائع الكبير الذي أدى الكثير لهذه المنظمة. أيها السادة، لقد حققت منظمتنا سينتهم الكونفدرالية الوطنية للشغائر الموريتانية خطوات هامة في البناء الداخلي. يقف أمامكم الأمين العام المنتخب في مؤتمر عاد ثالث دون تدخل من الحكومات ولا من رجال الأعمال ولا من هيمنة شخصية. إن الكونفدرالية الوطنية للشغيلة الموريتانية تناصر القضايا العادلة أينما كانت، وعلى رأس هذه القضايا القضية الفلسطينية. فقد آن الأوان لأن ينجلي الاحتلال الإسرائيلي وأن توجد وتقم قائمة الدولة الفلسطينية المستقلة التي يمكن أن تعيش. إننا ندعو إلى حل كل النزاعات العالقة بطريقة عادلة تضمن فيها كافة الحقوق وينحاز فيها إلى المظلومين وإلى المنتهكين. على مستوى الوطني تعيش بلادنا انفتاحاً سياسياً وتشاوراً عاماً، وهي حالة جديرة بالإشادة. لكن هذا الواقع السياسي المنفتحة لما ينعكس بعد على الوضع الاجتماعي، فما زال الوضع الاجتماعي في بلادنا صعباً نتيجة لتدني الأجور وضعف الراتب الأدنى للأجور، الحد الأدنى للأجور، وضعف الحماية الاجتماعية على الرغم من بعض التحسينات التي عرفتها كلها، وغياب المفاوضات الجماعية الجادة، وإحجام الحكومة لحد الساعة عن تنظيم التمثيل النقابي حتى تعرف المنظمات الأكثر تمثيلاً. كل هذا يجعل الواقع النقابي في موريتانيا ما يزال واقعاً صعباً. نأمل من كافة الشركاء الدعم والعون لكي نستطيع مواصلة النضال العمالي حتى تقتنع الحكومة الموريتانية بضرورة الانفتاح النقابي كما اقتنعت بضرورة الانفتاح السياسي، وحتى تتحسن ظروف العمال الذين نشاهد كثيراً من الاحتجاجات في هذه السنوات ترجمة لهذا الوضع الذي قلنا أنه مزر إلى حد كبير. لذلك نتابع في هذه الأيام احتجاجات عمال التعليم، كما تابعنا من قبل ذلك احتجاجات لعمال آخرين، من عمال الموانئ، من عمال الاتصالات، من عمال المعادن إلى غير ذلك. ونرجو من الحكومة الموريتانية أن تصغي إلى الصوت النقابي الجاد، وأن نعمل سوياً على إخراج العامل الموريتاني من هذا الواقع، فهو يستحق أكثر. وفي الختام أشكر الاتحاد الدولي للنقابات، وأدعو إلى أن يولي المنظمات الموريتانية اهتماماً كبيراً في الهيئات وفي المشاورات، وأن يتخذ من اللغة العربية لغة في كل وثائقه وعلى موقعه. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
Thank you, Rabani. Thank you very much. Thank you. Let me now invite Maria from UNTCCS Cape Verde to take the floor.
Obrigada, Presidente. Uma saudação à CSI e, em particular, aos congressistas. Muito obrigada, Sharon, ao Presidente Yaoba e a toda a equipa pelo excelente trabalho. É com gratidão poder estar aqui a representar os trabalhadores de Cabo Verde, petit pays arquipelágico, situado no Atlântico, a 500 quilómetros do Senegal. Reveste-se de suma importância trazer esta singela mensagem de um povo lutador e resiliente face aos grandes males que afligem o mundo. Cabo Verde, país insular, sem recursos minerais, mas com credibilidade a nível internacional por defender os princípios do pluralismo democrático, boa governação e com importantes índices de desenvolvimento humano e económico, estando em posição cimeira a nível do continente africano. Essa resiliência advém da nossa natureza insular, sofrendo ao longo dos tempos períodos de seca severa, agravados com consequência nefasta das alterações climáticas, que por uma questão de sobrevivência leva muitas mulheres à apanha da areia nas praias, intensificando assim ainda mais a erosão das nossas costas. Caros congressistas, o novo contrato social também é uma agenda transformadora de género estabelecido entre países, versando sobretudo questões que afetam o mundo do trabalho, particularmente o universo feminino, esquecido e discriminado. A violência, os assédios e a desigualdade de género são, infelizmente, realidades que ainda sofrem as mulheres trabalhadoras, apesar de grandes avanços conseguidos a nível de sensibilização do poder político e da própria legislação. Nós, enquanto central sindical, temos levantado o véu a muitas dessas questões numa luta constante, quer no âmbito do Conselho de Concertação Social, que é o mais importante órgão tripartido para assuntos sociolaborais e económicos, quer através da capacitação dos nossos dirigentes sindicais e sensibilização da opinião pública sobre esses temas. A nossa meta vai ao encontro ao que o contrato social preconiza, tanto ao nível da igualdade e da inclusão de género, da proteção social de todos, da não discriminação entre homens e mulheres no ambiente laboral, na aplicação da Convenção 190 da OIT, da promoção e da liderança feminina. Viva o 5º Congresso da CSI, viva a solidariedade sindical, viva a paz no mundo. Obrigada.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you very much. I now invite Oliver Valentine, CGSLB Belgium.
Bonjour à toutes, bonjour à tous. Le nouveau contrat social porté par la CSI est ambitieux. Il nous parle et nous le supportons pleinement. Merci à Sharon et à ses équipes pour le travail accompli. Alors, les 6 piliers d'action sont plus relevants que jamais, y compris pour les travailleurs et les travailleuses de Belgique, car nous devons malheureusement constater que dans l'intervalle entre deux congrès de la CSI, selon l'indice CSI des droits dans le monde, la Belgique est descendue de 1 à 3 sur une échelle qui ne compte que 5 niveaux. Nous soutenons un dialogue social fort comme le meilleur moyen de faire progresser les droits des travailleurs. Nous avons vu d'ailleurs les résultats de ce dialogue social fort dans la protection des travailleurs lors de la pandémie de Covid-19. Nous voulons aussi plus d'emplois, mais pas uniquement dans une approche quantitative. Ces emplois doivent surtout être des emplois décents. Nous devons aussi protéger les travailleurs occupés dans des nouvelles formes de travail, comme par exemple les travailleurs des plateformes, afin qu'ils aient pleinement accès aux droits et à la protection sociale. Nous soutenons chaque action pour le passage de l'économie informelle à l'économie formelle et soulignons ici l'importance de la recommandation 204 de l'OIT. Nous voulons des augmentations de salaires, mais surtout des salaires qui permettent à chacun de vivre dignement. De manière générale, en Belgique et de par le monde, la part des salaires dans le produit intérieur brut continue à diminuer et la richesse créée ne retourne pas suffisamment aux travailleurs. Le nouveau contrat social de la CSI a bien identifié ces défis et, en plusieurs endroits, il formule des actes d'action concrets en matière de fiscalité, qui est un moyen important de redistribution des richesses. Nous avons noté l'engagement en faveur de systèmes de taxation progressive, certainement aussi en ce qui concerne les revenus du capital et des plus-values mobilières qui sont trop peu souvent mis à contribution. La CGCLB défend d'ailleurs depuis de nombreuses années un système de taxation duale progressive. La transition socialement et écologiquement juste est une urgence et nous faisons nôtre chaque jour le mantra de la CSI « Leave no one behind ». L'égalité entre les femmes et les hommes est pour nous aussi importante. Nous devons, dans chaque pays, faire pression pour que tous les moyens pour généraliser la ratification de la Convention 190 de l'OIT soient mis en œuvre. Chers amis, le contenu du nouveau contrat social devra nous servir de guide et il sera surtout de notre responsabilité de le mettre en œuvre. Nous sommes, ça a été déjà rappelé, la plus grande organisation démocratique au monde. Ne l'oublions jamais, nous avons la solidarité, nous avons la force, nous portons chaque revendication, qu'elle soit locale ou globale, pour plus de justice sociale. Vive la CSI. Merci.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Oliver. I now invite ITUC Alimda, Hakis of Turkey, sorry. Yeah.
Değerli delegeler, sizleri Türkiye İş Sendikaları Konfederasyonu Türkçe adına saygılarımla selamlıyorum. ITUC'nun 5. Dünya Kongresi'ne başarılar diliyorum. Konuşmama başlamadan önce geçtiğimiz günlerde İstanbul'da Taksim Meydanı'nda yaşanan terör saldırısından dolayı yaşadığımız üzüntüyü belirtmek istiyorum. Dünyanın terör eylemlerinin dini, dili, ırkı yoktur. Dünyanın her yerinde masumları hedef alan tüm terör eylemlerini şiddetle kınıyorum. Teröre destek veren ülkelerin de bu insanlık suçuna ortak olduklarını vurgulamak istiyorum. Değerli delegeler, dünyamızı etkisi altına alan milyonlarca insanın hayatına mal olan COVID-19 tüm ülkelerde ekonomik bir daralmaya neden olmuş, ardından da küresel bir krize dönüşmüştür. Bu süreçte milyonlarca işçi işsiz kalmıştır. Dünya COVID-19'un yaranı sarmaya çalıştığı sıralarda Rusya-Ukrayna savaşı başlamış ve neticesinde petrol ve doğalgaz gibi enerji ürünlerinin fiyatları artmış ve bu artış çalışanlara enflasyon olarak yansımıştır. Dünyadaki en büyük buğday ve mısır üreticisi iki ülkenin savaşı küresel gıda sistemini de olumsuz etkilemiştir. Artan enflasyon hayat standartlarının giderek düşmesine neden olmakta ve yoksulluk sınırı altında yaşayan kesimlerin sayısını giderek artırmaktadır. Dünyamız insan ona yakışır iş ve çalışma koşulları hedefinden giderek uzaklaşmaktadır. Dünya genelinde mevcut gelir adaletsizliğinin daha da arttığı görülmektedir. Zenginin daha zengin, yoksulun daha yoksul olduğu bir dünyada açlığın, çatışmaların ve savaşların bitmesini beklemek mümkün değildir. Ülkeler arasında gelir adaletsizliğini ortadan kaldırmak için yeni ve güçlü politikalar belirlemek gerekmektedir. ITUC yeni dönemde çalışanlar üzerinde vergi yükünün hafifletilmesi ve çalışma hayatının gündemine oturacak adil geçişte somut adımlar atılmasına vesile olacak mücadeleyi mutlaka vermelidir. Değerli delegeler, insanlık son 100 yılda çevreyi ve doğal kaynakları hoyratça tüketmiştir. Dünya bugün insanlığın kendi eliyle başlattığı iklim değişikliğiyle karşı karşıyadır. Küresel ısınma ile mücadelede atılacak her adımı destekliyoruz. Ancak küresel ısınmanın sorumlusu olmayan işçilerin işsiz kalarak bedel ödemesine izin vermeyeceğimizi belirtmek istiyorum. Değerli delegeler, Türkiye son yıllarda farklı ülkeden gelen göçmenlerin hedefi ülkesi olmuştur. Milyonlarca göçmen Türkiye'ye giriş yapmıştır. Göçmenler birçok sosyal yardımdan yararlanmaktadırlar ve kayıt altına alındıklarında bu yardımların kesileceğini bildiklerinden kayıt dışı çalışmayı tercih etmektedirler. İşveren tarafından işçi maliyetlerini düşürmek için tercih edilen göçmenler Türkiye'de emek piyasalarının dengesinin bozulmasına neden olmuşlardır. Türk işçilerin ücretlerinin aşağı yönlü basılanmasına neden olmuşlardır. kayıt dışı istihdam ile mücadele başta olmak üzere çalışma hayatının sorunlarının çözümünde sendikalaşmanın öndeki engellerin kaldırılması büyük önem taşımaktadır. Değerli delegeler, sözlerime sonlamadan önce Türk Sendik Hareketi'ne destekleyen ötürü Sharon Barova ve bu organizasyonu yapan ve geçmesi sağlayan tüm personelimize teşekkür ediyorum. ITUC'nin 5. Dünya Kongresi'ne başarılar diliyorum. Hepinizi tekrar saygıyla selamlıyorum. Teşekkür ediyorum.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Europe. I now invite Iraqi, CDT Morocco.
السيدات والسادة الرفاق والرفيقات في المؤتمر الخامس للكونفدرالية النقابية الدولية معكم الراقي عبد الغني أحييكم باسم الكونفدرالية الديمقراطية للشغل بالمغرب. في المغرب بلادي أغلبية الساكنة وأساساً الطبقة العاملة والطبقة المتوسطة تعاني من 3 جوائح. نحن نعاني إذن من الجائحة الأولى مثلنا مثلكم في العالم هي جائحة كورونا، فعلاوة على فقدان آلاف الأرواح ونحن شعب من حوالي 36 مليون ضاعت منا 16278 إلى اليوم من الأرواح البشرية، كما ضاعت كذلك مئات الآلاف من مناصب الشغل حوالي 430 ألف، مما عمق من مظاهر الفقر والهشاشة في عالم الشغل. فعقود الشغل المحددة المدة أضحت تتزايد بشكل مخيف، مما سيعقد من مهمتنا جميعا، ونحن في مؤتمرنا هذا نتطلع لعقد اجتماعي جديد. الجائحة الثانية هي جائحة الجفاف القاسي للسنة الثالثة على التوالي بالمغرب كما في العديد من دول العالم، وذلك كنتيجة طبيعية للتحولات المناخية الكونية التي هي موضوع من مواضيع مؤتمرنا هذا، والتي سببتها في نظرنا الشركات الكبرى في دول الشمال الغنية، فهم السبب، ونحن نؤدي الثمن في دول الجنوب الفقيرة على شكل فيضانات أو جفاف. وعلى هذه الدول الغنية أن تعوض دول الجنوب الفقيرة عبر تمويل مشاريع التنمية المستدامة، وهذا اقتراح نقدمه ليرفع الغموض. بالمناسبة الغموض الذي يوجد في الفقرة العاشرة من لا ديكلاراسيون، من التصريح المقدم للمؤتمر، الفقرة العاشرة من الصفحة 13. هذه الفقرة هذه تتحدث عن تعويض اندمنيزاسيون، ولم تحدد من سيعوض من ولا كيف. الجائحة الثالثة هي في نظرنا في بلادنا هي السياسات الحكومية المغربية هذه الأخيرة، رغم التزامها مع الحركة النقابية في اتفاق 30 أبريل الأخير على الزيادة في الأجور ومراجعة النظام الضريبي، فإنها تصر اليوم على تجميد الأجور وعلى فرض نظام ضريبي مجحف يثقل كاهل الطبقة العاملة والطبقة المتوسطة، كما أن الحكومة المغربية تمعن في ضرب الحريات النقابية والعامة. فيوم افتتاح مؤتمرنا هذا يوم الأربعاء تم جلد الأساتذة المحتجين، الأساتذة المغاربة المحتجين أمام البرلمان المغربي من لدن قوات البوليس وهم في مظاهرة سلمية. والأخطر أن الحكومة المغربية تسير في اتجاه سن قانون يقيد الحق في الإضراب، وكذلك تتجه إلى سن قانون ثاني في مجال التعاقد عبر تحميل الأجراء والمتقاعدين كلفة إصلاح صناديق التقاعد. أمام هذا وفي مواجهته نقابتنا الكونفدرالية الديمقراطية للشغل خطت الخطوة الأولى عبر تنظيم وقفات احتجاجية في 13 نوفمبر الماضي، والخطوة المقبلة هي مسيرة يوم 4 دجنبر المقبل تنظمها الجبهة الاجتماعية التي فيها الكونفدرالية الديمقراطية للشغل لا سي دي تي مكون أساسي من مكوناتها. في الأخير لدينا مقترحين لمؤتمرنا هذا وللحركة النقابية العالمية أن يتم التضامن مع الحركة النقابية المغربية عبر توجيه احتجاجات للحكومة المغربية على عدم احترامها للاتفاقيات الموقعة وعلى قمعها للاحتجاجات السلمية واعتقال الصحفيين والأساتذة ومحاكمتهم. شكرا.
Thank you. Thank you. I now invite Kang Zhanghu, CTM Myanmar. Zhang CTUM Myanmar. Kuspan from Kazakhstan should come forward if from Myanmar is not ready.
Дорогие братья и сестры, приветствую вас от имени Конфедерации независимых профсоюзов Республики Казахстан. Все вы знаете, что после решения Генерального совета МКП от 16 ноября в составе МКП оказались две организации. Федерация профсоюзов Республики Казахстан, членство которой мы приостановили в Копенгагене из-за полного контроля со стороны государства, и наша независимая конфедерация. Хочу вам сказать, что мы все еще проживаем трудные времена. Наша деятельность все еще находится под запретом, регистрация аннулирована, не отменены уголовные приговоры осужденных профсоюзными лидерами. До сих пор действует антирабочий закон о профсоюзах, который не позволяет нам свободно создавать независимые от государства и работодателей профсоюзы, как простой рабочий нефтяник, избранные людьми для защиты их трудовых прав. Должен вам сказать, мы не должны мириться с подобной ситуацией. Нам нужны наши организации. Мы боремся за их существование уже много лет, несмотря на репрессии и запреты. Восстановление членского статуса Федерации профсоюзов Казахстана в полном объеме, на наш взгляд, означает приглашение для этой организации включиться в борьбу за свободу объединения в нашей стране. Это требует слаженной, солидарной, совместной работы внутри Казахстана. Это требует продолжения усилий МКП, всего международного профсоюзного сообщества. Мы будем продолжать нашу кампанию, мы продолжим взаимодействие с МОД и иными институтами, которые могут помочь нам достичь справедливости. Мы эту работу доведем до конца. Мы запрашиваем поддержку МКП, глобальных союзов и национальных профцентров в этой нашей борьбе. Казахстан все еще в красной зоне с точки зрения прав профсоюзов. Не складывайте рук с этой трибуны. Я обращаюсь к избранным лидерам Федерации Казахстан, Федерации профсоюзов Республики Казахстан и ее активу. Антирабочие, антидемократические трудовые законодательства может быть использованы против любой профсоюзной организации в нашей стране. Давайте вместе изменим эту ситуацию. Мы рассчитываем на взаимодействие и честную работу внутри страны для полной реализации права на свободу объединения для казахстанских работников. Призываю МКП поддержать нас. Прошу внести мое предложение в сводную резолюцию Конгресса. А также мы требуем правительства Беларуси освобождения из тюрем всех лидеров белорусских конфедераций демократических профсоюзов. Спасибо за внимание.
Thank you, Kuspan. I now invite Jose, UNTA CS Angola. Jose, UNTA CS Angola.
Saúdo, em primeiro lugar, todas as companheiras e todos os companheiros, e bem como todas e a todos que representam serviços de apoio técnico desse conclave. uma saudação especial e particular para o camarada presidente Ayuba e a camarada secretária-geral da CIC e toda a sua direção. Esta saudação vem de Angola e em nome da UNTA Confederação Sindical, de todos os trabalhadores angolanos e do meu nome próprio como secretário-geral desta organização. Um novo contrato social não é um mero slogan. É, acima de tudo, uma nova visão sindical mundial cuja desconstrução filosófica e sociológica requererá grande comprometimento dos atores sindicais a nível do mundo e dos respectivos governos. A UNTA Confederação Sindical condena todas as guerras que ocorrem no mundo e, ao olhar silencioso das Nações Unidas, que só aparece de quando em vez naquelas situações que mais lhes convém. Apelamos à paz em todo o mundo, sem exceção. E, por isso, a solidariedade sindical internacional é requerida mais do que nunca os dias de hoje e agora. Quero antes de terminar a nossa curta intervenção, fazer duas notas. Primeira, parabenizar a organização do 5º Congresso da CIC e saudar e agradecer efusivamente todos os seus intervenientes. Segundo, saudar o movimento sindical brasileiro, que no momento certo se uniu por saber que só unidos podemos ser mais que vencedores. E conseguiram a vitória de Lula, um ícone sindicalista, para mais um mandato da Presidente da República. Viva a solidariedade internacional, viva o 5º Congresso da CIC, viva a liberdade, viva a paz do mundo. Muito obrigado.
Thank you. I now invite Julius Caesar, CUT, Peru. Julius Caesar from CUT, Peru. Anwar Hussein from Bangladesh should be on standby. Anwar Hussein, Bangladesh, have the floor.
Well, no, there's Peru.
Yeah, then the other should wait. Yeah, you were late. Go ahead.
No problem.
Yeah, because he's not fast.
Compañeras y compañeros, señores miembros de la mesa de la CCI, en primer lugar quiero disculparme porque el día de ayer me adelantaron la intervención. Tenía previsto que iba a ser hoy día y hoy día pensé que no me iban a llamar. Sin embargo, estoy aquí y aprovecho precisamente para hablarles desde el Perú, desde un país donde el trabajo tiene características muy particulares. Más del 80% de trabajadores están en la economía informal o se generan su propio puesto de trabajo para sobrevivir. Y apenas el 20% de los trabajadores tienen un trabajo más o menos adecuado, donde se pueden ejercer los derechos tal y como los conocemos todos en el mundo del trabajo y que está regulado en los 190 convenios internacionales de la OIT. Desde esa perspectiva es que el análisis que nosotros hemos hecho respecto a la declaración de este Congreso, encontramos que se han tocado la diversidad de temas que el mundo del trabajo tiene que tocar. Y en ese sentido estamos plenamente de acuerdo. Sin embargo, consideramos que se tiene que poner énfasis en algunos temas, y particularmente en las raíces de los problemas que hoy tenemos en el aspecto del calentamiento global, en el aspecto de las migraciones, en el aspecto del déficit de trabajo decente. Y es que igual que la pandemia, recorre el mundo la acción codiciosa del empresariado multinacional, que lleva formas de organización del trabajo para explotar a los trabajadores en los países en desarrollo, que además cuenta con el aval y con la anuencia de organizaciones políticas que pregonan ciertas cosas y de verdad practican injusticias y arbitrariedades. Entonces, este Congreso me parece que tiene que enfatizar en el freno a la codicia empresarial, tiene que enfatizar en la necesidad de que la acción sindical, que es la fuerza más grande democrática, como aquí vamos diciendo, efectivamente asuma un rol protagónico en las definiciones políticas, porque son a través de los gobiernos que se hacen realidad las ambiciones del poder económico en los diferentes países. En ese sentido, la CUT Perú ciertamente demanda y exige que las CSI y todas las organizaciones multilaterales puedan definir acciones mucho más concretas para efectos de que el cambio que necesitamos se produzca. La acción sindical de la CSI tiene que impulsar verdaderamente este nuevo contrato social con una fuerza muy poderosa para poder cambiar. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Julius Caesar. I now invite Awar Hussein, BJSD Bangladesh, to take the floor.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I am Anwar Hussain, President, Bangladesh Jatiyatavadi Shramik Dol. On behalf of Bangladesh Jatiyatavadi Shramik Dol, I congratulate ITUC for organizing ITUC 5th World Congress in Melbourne. I also pay my gratitude to all the delegates coming from different countries of the world. My sisters and brothers, this is a great opportunity to discuss the issues of working people, which appears crucial situation at the world of work. Workers in Bangladesh are also facing a lot of challenges, especially due to COVID and geopolitical tension in the current years. Women's workers are vulnerable. Nowadays, informality is growing day by day. Violation and exploitation is a crude reality. The livelihood of the workers become poor to poorer due to inequality and huge gap of income. To ensure protection of workers, trade unions need to unite and organize more workers into the trade unions. Future of work is also a big challenge due to uninformation, unification and notification, artificial intelligence, robotization, and automation, etc. 6 affiliates of ITUC in Bangladesh is now finding the scopes for unification. We have also already started the process of unification in Bangladesh. We need to build our capacity to address the workers' issues, protecting workers' rights and at work. We request ITUC and ITUC AP to continue their support to enable us to build trade union power. We also urge trade union solidarity forever. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Hussein. I now invite Luis from CGTG, Guatemala.
Buenos días a todos y todas, a la mesa, a la CSA y CSI. La situación en Guatemala hasta hoy día no ha cambiado. Queremos agradecer a la CSA, a la CSI, que a partir del 2021 instalamos la mesa sindical con las 3 centrales, CGTG, CUSG y UNCITRAGUA de Guatemala, que durante estos 2 años nos ha permitido poderle dar seguimiento al cumplimiento de la hoja de ruta. Hoy también a la CSI y a la CSA por esa delegación que estuvo juntamente con la OIT del 19 al 26 de septiembre en Guatemala, donde nuevamente la dirigencia sindical de Guatemala plasmó y dijo: no hay avances en el cumplimiento de la hoja de ruta en Guatemala. Donde han habido, en el mes de agosto nuevamente matan a otro dirigente sindical de una portuaria. Y solamente en Guatemala a los dirigentes nos callan, matándonos. Pero queremos agradecer a la CSA, a la CSI, por esa mesa sindical que ya 2 años estamos cumpliendo este año, donde ha habido ese seguimiento y ese acompañamiento, lo cual pedimos y sugerimos al nuevo secretario de la CSI que no deje por un lado a toda el área de Centroamérica y el Caribe, con el apoyo y el acompañamiento, porque lo necesitamos las organizaciones. Estamos en un mundo, como he escuchado ya, el aporte de todos. Todos tenemos la misma historia de matanza, de muerte de dirigentes sindicales como la que estamos viviendo en Guatemala. Pero pedimos, hoy invitamos también como movimiento sindical guatemalteco, CUSG, UNCITRAGUA y CGTG, que hoy no pudieron estar acá, para un foro internacional para el mes de abril, para que nos pueda acompañar la dirigencia de la CSA y CSI, porque vienen las próximas elecciones en nuestro país, que no hay ningún cambio. La corrupción, la mafia en los 3 poderes del Estado está corrompida y no hay ningún avance, y queremos que a través de este foro, con el acompañamiento también de la CSC de Bélgica, nos puedan apoyar y poder presentar el plan de trabajo, y creo que es el momento de presentar también el PLADA a los nuevos gobiernos, a los nuevos candidatos de presidente que se van a postular, y presentarle cuál es la visión del movimiento sindical y los trabajadores, donde los jóvenes, donde las mujeres no tienen esa oportunidad de ocupar puestos en ninguno de los lados porque son marginados. Y es por eso la lucha sindical a través de la CSA y CSI. Seguiremos luchando para que todo a través del mundo y con todos los que hoy estamos acá, seguir unidos, como decimos en Guatemala: pueblo unido jamás será vencido. Gracias.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, We are going to hear two more speakers before moving to addresses from the candidates for the position of ITUC General Secretary. So those two candidates should actually be ready. We'll just take two more speakers. So let me invite Salama from UGTM Morocco to come to take the floor. And Christy Hoffman from UNI should be on standby.
السلام عليكم. السيد الرئيس يوبا، السادة فريق الرئاسة، الحضور الكريم، سعيد بالتواجد معكم بالمؤتمر الخامس للاتحاد الدولي للنقابات ITUC هنا بأستراليا، حيث نحيي سكانها وخصوصا بملبورن. إننا في الاتحاد العام للشغالين بالمغرب GTM، ومن خلال مؤتمرنا يوم 7 ماي 2017 الذي تم فيه ضخ دماء جديدة من خلال انتخاب مكتب تنفيذي جديد برئاسة الأخ نعمة ميارة، نعتبر أن الحوار الاجتماعي بالمغرب لا زال ينقصه الكثير، خصوصا وأن الملفات مطلبية الحساسة لا زالت في بداية طريقها، كالرفع من الأجور والتخفيض الضريبي وملف التقاعد وتوسيع الحماية الاجتماعية لتشمل الجميع. إن شعار المؤتمر عقد اجتماعي جديد لا يمكن تحقيقه ما لم نكن بدراية تامة بمجموعة من المطالب الأساسية التي يجب أن نناضل من أجلها: عدالة اجتماعية وعدالة جبائية، تحقيق الحريات الجماعية والفردية، الدفاع عن الإنسان وحقوقه الكونية، الحق في الإضراب، عالم تسوده الطمأنينة والسلام، مناخ يعيش تحت ظله الجميع، إدماج الشباب في الحقل النقابي، مواكبة التحول الرقمي وتأثيره على نفسية العمال والعاملات. إن النظام الاقتصادي العالمي الجديد يمر بفترة حرجة وحساسة من خلال أزمات اجتماعية واقتصادية وبيئية وصحية عميقة تؤثر على العمال بغض النظر عن مكان إقامتهم. اليوم يبدو أن القادة بالعالم وبمؤسسات لا يفهمون أن ضعف الاقتصادات لم يكن أكبر من أي وقت مضى، ويتركون العمال يواجهون مصيرهم، بل يلجؤون إلى حلول اقتصادية تؤدي إلى تدهور الحياة وفرص الشغل. الحضور الكريم، نحن بحاجة إلى نموذج اقتصادي جديد يقوم على العمالة الكاملة والعمل اللائق والازدهار المشترك. نعم، عقد اجتماعي جديد مرتبط بالازدهار والانتقال العادل وتعزيز الأمن المشترك للتعايش السلمي، مما يؤدي إلى خلق فرص استثمار وبالتالي خلق فرص شغل. هذا التعايش السلمي للأسف يحاول البعض نسفه من خلال شن حروب ظالمة كالحرب على اليمن وفلسطين من حين لآخر، والحرب على أوكرانيا التي خلقت أزمة طاقة وأزمة غذاء عالميين والتي شردت عائلات بأكملها. أيها الحضور الكريم، العامل البسيط دفع ثمن الحجر الصحي خلال جائحة كورونا، والآن يدفع ثمن الحرب الباردة الدائرة بمجموعة من مناطق العالم. على الاتحاد الدولي للنقابي ITUC أن يكون حاضراً من خلال دعوته الحوار والتفاوض، ولم لا الاتصال بشكل مباشر مع المنظمات النقابية بالدول المعنية كجزء من حل هذه المشاكل بين الدول. نريد من الاتحاد الدولي للنقابات أن يواجه المنظمات الدولية والدفاع المالية والدفاع عن مكتسبات العمال. نريد تشكيل لجان تحقيق تدفع تقارير في أي نزاع نقابي وبدعم من منظمة العمل الدولي. ندعو إلى ضبط سياسة سوق العمل، نرجو منها الدعوة إلى إطلاق سراح جميع المناضلين القابعين في السجون، وهنا لا بد أن نشكر السيدة الأمينة العامة شارون على مجهوداتها الكبيرة في هذا الصدد. وفي الختام، بفضل دعمكم يستمر العمل النقابي ليصبح أكثر شمولاً ودعم الفئات المستضعفة. فيفا CIC، فيفا ITUC. السلام عليكم.
Thank you, Salama. I now invite Christy Hoffman from UNI to have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, brothers and sisters. UNI is a global federation in services, and on behalf of our the 20 million workers we represent, I say thank you. Thank you to the ITUC for the work you do to lead the fight for working people on the global stage. It is so important. Thank you to Sharon Burrow for your decades of dedication to global trade unionism, your unfailing ability to understand the world, to be everywhere at once, to speak out and speak up for workers, for women, for those left behind. You are equally at home on a picket line or a prime minister's office, and we will miss you. And we wish the new general secretary all of the best as he steps into some very big shoes indeed. The Congress statement calls for a new social contract. We seek good green jobs for everyone, an inclusive economy in which wages reflect both the real cost of living and a fair share of profits and productivity gains, with social protection and health care for all, an end to the erosion of the employment relationship, an expansion of collective bargaining. We want shared prosperity, not grotesque inequality. We must save the planet from climate destruction, and finally, we must have peace and democracy, not fascism or war. That's a lot. We deserve it all. But how will we win this new social contract? It does seem indeed daunting. There is no scarcity in this world of resources to pay for these many demands, but there is a scarcity of worker power. There is a scarcity of political will. So if we want to win these demands, we have to have stronger and bigger unions, a stronger, bigger, and more inclusive movement, stronger at the bargaining table, stronger in the political sphere. So brothers and sisters, we come together to this Congress to chart the next 4 years, but also to celebrate and recommit to the power of global unionism, because even though the forces aligned against workers are big, we are bigger, the largest democratic movement in the world, and we have the potential to be even bigger. We must be strategic and united, but we will not win this social contract by asking politely. We will need to fight, and when we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. So let's fight and win together. Solidarity.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last one.
Colleagues, let me invite the General Secretary to respond to the comments and to the addresses that I have received. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And again, a very rich debate this morning as we've seen people reinforce the elements of the social contract, starting with supply chains, both upstream and downstream, eliminating exploitative behaviour, and of course a social contract that delivers both a social, green and digital transformation in the interests of working people. Gender equality played a big role right across the scope, from the question of ending violence against women and girls. I was struck by the description that indeed violence is a pandemic of its own and destroys the lives of women before they even have a chance. And the commitment to ratifying C-190, I think absolutely we all endorse. There was also a call to end racism, and I think when you look at our global family here, we know there's no place for racism. A worker is a worker is a worker. It doesn't matter their ethnicity, their colour, their religion, whatever the difference might be, we know that we are all equal, and so we are all committed to end the scourge of racism. The war in Europe, our brother Yaroshok, absolutely. I would say that we have called many times for his release. I know that Guy is still in the audience. The ILO's intervened. But in reality, we do need to continue to raise our voices, and I think that message has been heard well and truly. Of course, that also goes to the question of Hong Kong, and I was I would say to our Hong Kong brother who spoke this morning that we know you will never give up fighting for democratic rights and freedoms, and we will never give up standing right alongside of you. The description of our model of economy as a war against workers, I think, is not exaggerated. In too many parts of the world, the very economic model has been built on exploitation in order to fuel the profits for the few, and it's good that people remind us why we're fighting for a new social contract. Again, a range of different speakers absolutely indicating that our work to defend workers against oppression and exploitation is critical. The end to judicial harassment called for by Brother Osman from Turkey, I think, is really timely, and particularly a reminder that public sector workers around the world still don't enjoy the fundamental rights in many, many cases. And that's not just in developing countries. I know that the fight in Japan and other places for collective bargaining for public sector workers goes on. Taxation, absolutely. We cannot see redistribution unless we see tax reform. And Christy, indeed, being polite won't work, hasn't worked. I suspect that it's never going to work. So building workers' power, organising and fighting together for a new social contract, whatever the key elements are that are relevant in your country for your workers, is absolutely critical. Let me say to Guy Ryder, I think you're still in the hall with us. Thank you very much for being with us, for indeed taking this precious time when we know you are indeed flying back. And come the 1st of December, you will take up a very important new role as Under-Secretary for Policy to Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary-General. And we wish you well, we love you, we're proud that you are one of us, and we know that having another voice in the UN won't hurt at all. I'd also just take the opportunity to remind people that today, for those of you who are fans of football, the World Cup begins. But that's not why I'm reminding you of this. I'm reminding you of a major victory you helped achieve. You met the two Qatari workers elected by their own members in the workplace as representatives of workplace committees. You know we have achieved massive reform. We need to continue to build on that. There is a unique architecture in Qatar with the Gulfs, ourselves, the ILO and the government. And can you imagine if we had this architecture in every country where the government reports to that committee, which we dominate twice a year on progress, and negotiates the next steps, then we would be indeed much better off everywhere. We have to extend those reforms to the Gulf countries. I indicated we are joined by our colleagues from Saudi Arabia who have achieved an independent committee by law and are fighting to make that a union. But I also say to Liz and Kathy and Fred and other US delegates here that the 2026 World Cup, the fight's already begun. The American Federation of Labor laid out the criteria, negotiated the criteria for the bidding arrangements for 2026 in the host cities, and they'll be holding them to account, and they will want our solidarity. These big sporting events are an opportunity to reinforce, not just for the players, but also for the workers in supply chains, how important it is that they be run on the basis of decent work. So I wish your teams well, but I also thank you for standing strong to really, and Ambit, if you're in the room with the BWI, absolutely demanding change in Qatar. The Gulfs with Steve Cotton, Ambit, Christie, those unions, the Domestic Workers Federation with Elizabeth, They have been incredibly strong partners, and we thank them. I have an announcement to make to you about tomorrow. I think you will understand, for me, but also for Michelle and Sally, tomorrow morning is very important when our own Prime Minister arrives. Of course, there's the issue of the fight for legislation that Michelle has indeed told you about, and there is also a surprise announcement that I think all of us, but particularly our women, will be very pleased to know. So I will be inviting a number of the women leaders to join us here on stage. You will get invitations, but can you meet Paola Simonetti and Sharon Gibbard out in the foyer at 8:30 if you're on that invite list, at 8:30 tomorrow morning. I need all of you seated by 8:45, and you must have your name badges to enter the hall. And that reminds me to wear my name badge as well. Otherwise, we will not get in because of security. Indeed, there will be some reserved seats at the front of the hall. I ask you to respect those, particularly on the left over here. And after the Prime Minister goes, the ACTU has asked us to just engage in a very small solidarity action, but a very important one. And so if you have favourite football or basketball or tennis or other team colours, please wear them tomorrow. Please bring them to wear in the audience, because there is a theme about playing fair, about backing in our Australian colleagues, and that will be explained to you, but please bring any sporting colours of your favourite teams you may have. I'll be wearing the Diamonds colours, because for those of you who actually know the story in Australia, a very ugly woman in our midst absolutely offered to sponsor the women's netball team, and the players said no, thank you very much, because she refused to denounce the attitude to Indigenous genocide that her father had promoted some 30 or 40 years ago. Courageous young women saying no to wearing no to money, a lot of money, and in order not to wear a representative logo of anything to do with racism and genocide. If there are Australians observers in the room, you will be asked to actually enter through the upper doors, 7 and 8, and I will ask you indeed to be here to support the ACTU, but to meet a man that I think you will agree is a very, very decent human being, one who comes from working class stock, who has the best interest of workers and the Australian people at heart. And let's hope we can help reinforce his strength to go back to the Parliament and get through that vital legislation in the next 2 weeks that the Australian workers need to strengthen collective bargaining, to prevent sexual harassment, and so much more. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you very much. Colleagues, at this juncture, I invite you to join me as I invite the chair of the Credentials Committee, Liz Schuler, to explain the election procedure before I then later invite the two candidates to speak to us. Liz, you have the podium, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, President. Good afternoon, everyone. Great to see you all again today. I'll start with a brief report on our deliberations from yesterday, where we have considered a few specific cases we wanted to share with you, where we have male single delegates representing organizations that have not declared their women membership. And our newly amended Constitution requires that the organizations in such situations need to be represented at Congress by a woman. So considering that the amendments of the Constitution were not yet in effect prior to Congress at the time of the invitations, the committee has decided to accept the credentials of these one-person delegations for one last time to allow them to vote. So this brings me to the voting procedure. Hopefully everyone is awake and had their coffee because we have an election for General Secretary this afternoon. Yay. Yes, it's a surreal moment. As I mentioned yesterday, there are 2 official candidates for the position of General Secretary. Our Constitution requires Congress to organize a secret vote. The ITUC staff have prepared a secret electronic voting process and set up a voting room. So you'll see it on the screen behind me. Both the procedure and the physical setup of the voting room are checked and validated by the chair of the Standing Orders Committee, Felix Anthony, and me as the chair of the Credentials Committee. So the 2 of us have checked and validated. And I want to thank the ITUC staff for their excellent preparation. It made the job for Felix and I very easy. So let's go over now how the election will be conducted. Only delegation leaders will vote for their entire delegation. The single vote will be given the weight of the number of paying members that the organization has affiliated to the ITUC. The layout of the voting room that you see on the screen is you will find room 101 on the first floor of this convention center. That will be the entrance, and you see there's accommodation for keeping the line organized. And you'll see that it's set up for a lot of space and privacy. So only the voting delegate should go to room 101. Only one delegate, the voting delegate. And ITUC staff will be waiting at the entrance of the voting room. They will be speaking English, Spanish, or French. So if you need to bring an interpreter, you are allowed to bring that interpreter with you if you need translation for other languages. We expect 210 voters. So please, please, please be patient at the entrance in case there's a bit of a queue. So once inside the meeting room, ITUC staff will verify the identity of the voter. So we need you to please bring a photo identification, a passport, something that can allow us to verify that you are the person with your ID badge so that it matches. So you will need to leave here and get your photo ID if you do not have it on you at this moment. So after the verification, the voter will receive a text message with a protected link on their smartphone. It can also be a tablet or another electronic device. So that text message will come in, it will have a link, and then you click on that link to receive your ballot. The ballot will appear on your screen of your device with the names of the 2 candidates or to abstain. So 3 choices, 1 candidate, 2 candidate, abstention. There are several voting booths available inside the room you can see on the screen. If the voter does not have an electronic device to receive the link, do not worry. The ITUC staff will give you a code to use on a computer inside the room. So Felix and I will be present in the room to monitor the election process. We will be accompanied by 2 scrutineers appointed by the candidates. So Luca Vicentini has assigned Omar Farouk Osman from Somalia, and Kamal Azkan has put forward Kıvanç Eliasik from Turkey for this purpose, and they will also be in the voting room. Hopefully this is clear. Voting will start at 12:45 and will end at 2:30 unless all votes are cast sooner, which if all the votes are cast, we can close earlier, but we will allow for all the votes to be cast. The Credentials Committee will meet immediately after the vote closes to validate the results, and we will post a special report with the outcome on the Congress website at that time. So it will be immediate. We will also formally announce the results in tomorrow morning's committee report to the Congress. So I hope this is clear and that we can have a smooth election, because brothers and sisters, it is time to practice what we preach. The labor movement chooses its leaders democratically. That's what we do. And so now it is time for us to jointly decide who will have the nearly impossible task of following in Sharon's footsteps as the next ITUC General Secretary and lead us into the future. So, and I also would like to just recognize Sharon, and it's hard to accept that this is all happening now, but we will move forward. We thank you, Sharon, for all of your years and your leadership, and for really breaking down barriers for all of us. We are ready to move forward. Good luck to our candidates, and we look forward to a successful election. Thank you, and back to you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Sister Liz Shula, for that report. Thank you immensely. So, colleagues, the report of the Credentials Committee have been presented. I want to propose that we adopt the report. Before I move forward to invite the candidates to speak to us, can we adopt the reports, please? Adopted. At this point, colleagues, we will then invite the candidates to speak to us. They will have 15 minutes each to be able to speak to us. I will therefore go ahead to invite Kamel Ozan to step forward to the podium and speak to us. Kamal, you are invited, please.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente, mis queridas compañeras y compañeros, hermanas y hermanos. Me siento muy orgulloso y honrado de presentarme ante ustedes como candidato al cargo del secretario general de la CSI. En este maravilloso Parlamento Mundial de la Clase Trabajadora, escuchamos las realidades del terreno. De hecho, son tiempos muy difíciles para la mayoría de los pueblos del mundo. Está la pandemia y sus efectos duraderos, está la guerra, el odio, el fanatismo, el conflicto, hasta la violencia política son cultivados por la extrema derecha, fascismo. Hay grandes desigualdades que están desestabilizando nuestras comunidades, nuestras sociedades, nuestros sistemas políticos. La democracia, compañeras y compañeros, está siendo atacada no solo en las dictaduras, sino también en algunos países que aún son democráticos. Los sindicatos lideran la lucha por la libertad y la democracia. En algunos casos pueden ser más débiles de lo que fueron, pero siguen siendo las organizaciones más grandes y representativas en los países donde se les permite existir. Incluso en algunos países en los que se ha negado a los trabajadores, trabajadoras sus derechos, muchos líderes están en prisión, como Myanmar y Bielorrusia. Los trabajadores de sus sindicatos siguen luchando. La CSI, compañeras y compañeros, debe ser capaz de movilizarse eficazmente para apoyar a los valientes sindicalistas que se juegan la vida. También debe dar prioridad a otros que luchan por la libertad, como las mujeres de Irán, que se niegan a hacer lo que se les dice. Si gana la libertad, ganamos nosotros. Es claro que desde luego seguimos haciendo campaña para liberar al compañero Yarashuk. La Confederación Sindical Internacional es el vehículo para el cambio, asegurando que las prioridades de los trabajadores, trabajadoras sean el centro del debate político que responda a estas crisis. Compañeras y compañeros, los ataques contra las mujeres y las niñas se han extendido en los hogares, pero también como parte de la política gubernamental y mucho más allá de Irán. Apenas pasa un día sin que haya nuevas restricciones a los derechos de las mujeres en Afganistán. Rusia la ha desplegado en su invasión de Ucrania, junto con otras atrocidades contra la población civil. Sin embargo, también se ha vuelto común en Siria, Irak, en la República Democrática, en Congo, en América Central y en muchas otras zonas de conflicto. La paz es una prioridad sindical esencial, sin embargo, no puede ser la paz de los cementerios. El conflicto es inevitable entre y dentro de los países y grupos, incluso entre el capital y el trabajo. Es necesario resolverlo o acabará explotando. Su resolución exitosa se basa en los derechos sindicales y otros derechos humanos. El futuro de la democracia depende de la fuerza y la eficacia de sus instituciones. Una de estas instituciones es el movimiento sindical. Sin sindicatos libres no hay democracia. Y la última prueba de ello es la victoria de nuestro gran líder Lula, y por la que felicitamos a nuestros compañeros y compañeras brasileños. Lo mismo ocurre con nuestros compañeros colombianos por la victoria de Gustavo Petro. Para que las organizaciones sindicales sean legítimas, poderosas, deben ser democráticas. La democracia no es solo algo para exportar, al igual que la gobernanza en las democracias políticas debe ser de por y para el pueblo. Los sindicatos deben ser controlados por sus miembros. Para la CSI, las organizaciones afiliadas. Los sindicatos libres cumplen esa prueba. Tenemos que asegurarnos de que la CSI en sus prácticas de gobernanza también lo haga. Cher président, chers camarades, chers amis, la CSI doit contribuer à modifier l'équilibre de pouvoir qui a donné au capital plus d'influence que au gouvernement. Les entreprises et les banques opèrent de manière efficace et à l'échelle mondiale. Trop souvent, les dirigeants politiques sont à leur service plutôt que l'inverse. Le pouvoir des entreprises ralentit également la lutte pour sauver notre planète. La limitation des émissions de gaz à effet de serre ne se fera pas toute seule. Elle nécessite un leadership gouvernemental, une politique industrielle et la participation des partenaires sociaux pour gérer la mise en œuvre et les impacts au niveau national, sectoriel et de l'entreprise. Les progrès de matière d'émissions de CO2 doivent favoriser la justice sociale et protéger les travailleurs. Une transition juste ne doit pas se limiter à indemniser les travailleurs qui perdent leur emploi. Ils doivent pouvoir utiliser et développer leurs compétences et accéder à d'autres emplois. Et le changement d'emploi ne doit pas se faire au prix de la perte de droits, y compris la représentation syndicale. Chers camarades, notre planète brûle. Les travailleurs et leurs syndicats ne peuvent pas laisser les décisions concernant l'avenir de nos emplois et notre planète aux multinationales et aux forces du marché. Nous croyons que nous pouvons changer le monde pour le mieux, c'est qu'il faut c'est un plan. La seule réponse moralement défendable est de garantir aux travailleurs une transition juste. Si l'on attend des travailleurs qu'ils soutiennent cette transformation nécessaire et urgente, ils doivent y trouver leur compte. Si l'on attend des travailleurs qu'ils arrêtent ce qu'ils font aujourd'hui, nous devons pouvoir leur dire ce qu'ils feront demain. Le moment est venu, chers camarades, de construire des alliances pour mondialiser la justice sociale. Les gens sont parfaitement conscients du fait que le monde est de plus en plus injuste. Leur colère légitime ne doit pas être siphonnée par les extrémistes, mais doit trouver des expressions démocratiques. Il existe une menace, mais aussi une opportunité pour le changement démocratique. On ne peut pas continuer comme si de rien n'était. La protection et le respect des droits des travailleurs à former et adhérer à des syndicats et à négocier collectivement ont été attaqués par les dictatures, par les employeurs antisyndicaux. Pendant de nombreuses années, les employeurs ont attaqué l'OIT et certains principes fondamentaux sont devenus un tabou, notamment la liberté d'association, la négociation collective et le droit de grève. Il est maintenant temps pour nous de construire une stratégie offensive de travailleurs pour récupérer l'OIT. Congress, sisters and brothers, precarious work, which has exploded in recent decades in developing countries and developed countries alike, has made organizing and bargaining difficult and in some cases impossible. And this has continued in new forms like platform and gig work. It has undermined trade union rights without technically repealing their protection. Let's look at what is happening in the United Kingdom. We see workers fired and rehired on lower conditions, completely disgusting. India has turned to be a laboratory of wild capitalism in the world. However, we all stand up on the 2nd of December when our Indian comrades once again stopped the country. Organizing has always been blocked by fear. It may be the fear of being arrested or fired. It may also be the fear of the non-renewal of a temporary contract or not having the opportunity to obtain unlimited employment status. Organizing is everybody's job in the trade union movement. However, it is not the same job for everybody. The ITUC should use its limited resources, means to do things that cannot be done better by national centers or by global unions or their sectorial affiliates. This means protecting and enabling trade union rights that make possible for workers to organize and bargain and strengthening global systems and mechanisms. That includes the defense of rights, including the right to strike, and their supervision in the ILA, mobilizing to gain support from other international bodies for those rights and continuing development of workers' capital strategies, as well as efforts on business and human rights and due diligence. It should also be ready to mobilize support for campaigns of global unions and national centers. And fighting for trade union rights and democracy is not an abstraction or something that I have learned from reading the books. I have spent years doing trade union work on every continent. I have talked with, but more importantly, listened to trade unions, large and small, and learned of their challenges, opportunities, and how their culture combined with our trade union values. However, long before that, I was shaped by my own experience. I believe the ITUC must stand as a strong campaigner and a good negotiator. We will certainly redesign and invest in our campaigning capacity. Strong campaigns of the ITUC will mean growth, growth in numbers, growth in activism, growth in commitment to international solidarity. With ITUC's strength placed behind national organizing efforts, we will build a forward momentum in membership numbers everywhere. Efficient, result-oriented organizing campaigns are needed in the Global South, but also in the Global North. Let me tell you this, the global union movement cannot be successful while the United States, the world's largest economy, remain largely unorganized, particularly in its south. The ITUC will certainly intensify its work with our US sisters and brothers to strengthen this effort. An important role of the ITUC will be the coordination of global campaigns throughout the biggest global corporations and their supply chains and production networks, together with the global unions. And ITUC will bring together the best talent in the global labor movement to develop proposals for global organizing campaigns that bring results on the ground. For a genuine negotiation, dear colleagues, comrades, sisters and brothers, ITUC will continue to take this opportunity to put unions at the center of a new global industrial relations system and cross-border social dialogue that responds to the concept of human rights due diligence throughout companies' own operations and their supply chains. The world cannot continue with this abusive and exploitative business model, and this is why supply chain strategy is key for the union movement. Likewise, disruptive models of development and unfair trade practices, such as those pursued by China, suppress the economic and social rights of workers. This poses a significant threat to sustainable development and drives downward the pressure on workers' rights around the world. Sisters and brothers, this is the time of transformation of the world, but also for the ITUC. This will be a tough decision to make on priorities beyond the general discussions of this Congress. They will be based on the realities of the organization's financial situation and capacity. There will be a need to concentrate on the ITUC's mandate, to institute sound management, and to ensure transparency. If I am elected as your General Secretary, you will receive full information on issues, and your elected representatives on the General Council and the Executive Bureau will be encouraged and enabled to discuss and debate issues and to take actions. And the ITUC will listen to, be close to, and serve as a consensus vehicle for its affiliates. There will be close cooperation with regional organizations, as well as with the global unions and ITUC, to support each other's work to strengthen the Council of Global Unions. We can build a powerful organization if we concentrate on trade union values, build agreement and engagement, and reach out to others. We can be the lever that moves the world towards social justice. Within one Congress period, my dear sisters and brothers, this leadership will transform the ITUC to be progressive, to be democratic, to be feminist, and to be ecologist. Gender is a key matter to unlock the door to address the root causes of inequality. An enormous power of ITUC's power comes from the inspirational women leaders throughout the movement. And ITUC will increase its focus and energy in the global march for women's empowerment. If we certainly ensure gender parity in the leadership composition, Congress, sisters and brothers, at this time of massive global upheaval, we have an opportunity, an obligation. We must seize the moment to regenerate the world with a rebalanced social contract based on social justice and workers' rights. At the end, this requires a struggle, unity, solidarity, with a strong union movement at the forefront. We know that the establishment is powerful, but our movement is even more powerful when we fight together in unity with Global South, Global North, men and women, and youth. I have laid down my vision in my manifesto for our movement. My stance here is for a political project rather than seeking an individual position. I am happy to see that there's a
Thank you,
widespread support, expectation, demand for this political project. I know there are serious challenges that new leadership needs to take on. I have the sufficient energy, determination, commitment, and dedication to drive this mission. My dear sisters and brothers, colleagues, I welcome the challenge and I seek your support. Solidarity forever.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Brother Kamal. Thank you. Let me now invite Luca Versatini to take the stage. Thank you.
This podium is very low for Kemal and myself. Brothers and sisters, compañeros y compañeras, camarades, compagni e amici, also in my language. The global trade union movement faces enormous challenges that require... Oh my God, my speech has disappeared. Sorry. Things that happen. Here we are. Sorry. The global trade union, I hope you don't count these few minutes that I... The global trade union movement faces enormous challenges that require ambitious action and internal cohesion. As a candidate, I have put unity and change at the core of my proposals. And I'm ready to take on board the plural political views and regional perspectives of all affiliates, including the different positions that emerged at the last Congress in Copenhagen. And I am committed to build together a forward-looking global trade union agenda. In my manifesto, I have set some key policy priorities for the future in full coherence with the Congress statement, and I have also indicated some principles to innovate our internal way to operate in a democratic and inclusive manner. Last but not least, I have set a roadmap to empower the regional structures of the ITUC and criteria for selection of a gender and regionally balanced leadership team. My forefront priority is peace and democracy. These are the founding values of the trade union movement and among the most pressing emergencies at the global level. Recent conflicts in many countries and regions put people's lives and security at risk while increasing inequalities and social injustice. Our thoughts and concrete solidarity action go to our comrades in Ukraine, to all the refugees fleeing countries in war, to trade unionists in jail in Belarus, our brother Karashuk, together with the others, and in many other places, to the populations and workers of Iran, Yemen, Myanmar, Afghanistan, Turkey, Hong Kong, and all the other countries in the world where there are wars and conflicts, where trade unionists and working people are persecuted, where human and workers' rights are violated, including in Palestine, where we keep denouncing workers' oppression and fighting for the only solution possible to protect workers and build peace, 2 states for 2 peoples. The rise of the extreme right, neo-fascist and racist movements, and authoritarian and neoliberal regimes all over the world stem from such conflicts and from their economic and social consequences. This undermines democratic values and institutions and brings together unacceptable attacks on human, workers, and trade union rights and freedoms. The global trade union movement stands strongly in defense of peace and democracy. But comrades, political discussion is not enough. We need to deliver trade union campaigns, international solidarity actions, and institutional negotiations, especially for those countries and regions where trade unions are most under pressure. Building broad and strong trade union action and networks for peace, democracy, and fight against the far right must be at the core of the ITUC program for the future. In this respect, I want to congratulate our comrades and friends of Brazil for the fantastic victory of Lula. There is still hope in the world after that to have more democracy and social justice. This is a success of the trade union movement, a progressive change in Brazil which will have very positive effects on Latin America and on the rest of the world. A number of economic and social crises have hit working people over recent decades, including the consequences of COVID. A savage neoliberal agenda has heavily disrupted our economies, jobs, and social protection systems, while increasing poverty, social exclusion, informality, and inequalities. And now, the economic and social consequences of various conflicts, including the war in Ukraine, are generating an unprecedented energy speculation, with prices and inflation skyrocketing, recession and unemployment making working people pay the price again. It's high time for the global trade union movement to speak up and mobilize even more strongly for a new economic model, an economy at the service of people and not of corporate profits, based on sustainability, inclusiveness, equality, and social justice. We want public investment for quality jobs, climate and digital just transitions, universal public services and social protection. We want fair industrial and energy policies to resolve economic injustice in the world. We want progressive taxation, a fair trade agenda, and a radical reform of global economic rules to support public investment and debt cancellation. We want that multinational companies are obliged to respect fundamental labor and social standards, including in the supply chains. And most importantly, we want a global pay rise for workers to get their fair share and eradicate poverty. We will continue fighting to end inequalities affecting women, workers, and workers in all their diversity. Women have been disproportionately affected by the pandemic. Millions of women have lost their jobs with no guarantee they will return. The COVID-19 pandemic has widened the poverty gap between women and men. Wars and conflicts affect women the first, with persecutions, violence, and further discrimination. We must stop all this and put the achievement of gender equality at the center of all our policies and actions. Brothers and sisters, we confirm our commitment to contribute to the achievement of the Paris Agreement objectives, because there are no jobs on a dead planet. It's our responsibility to make a global just transition real for working people. Just transition cannot merely mean training and a bit of social protection to compensate for job disruption. Full employment through massive quality job creation and equality must be guaranteed to working people in the very same communities where jobs are going to be disrupted. And this can be achieved only through public investment, inclusive industrial and energy strategies, and universal labor and social protection. The role of trade unions to achieve a just transition through social dialogue, collective bargaining, and workers' participation is essential. Trade unions must be at the table, not only in countries where social dialogue is advanced. We have to implement trade union action on just transition through negotiations with institutions and employers, funding for trade union capacity building, and reinforce cooperation between global, sectoral, national, and local levels. For all these reasons, we need a new social contract. It is fundamental to construct fairer societies and labor communities everywhere in the world, and to defend and reinforce peace and democracy. We need a new social contract to protect fundamental rights and ensure universal social protection systems, to achieve sound labor and social legislation, including on gender equality and equal access to work. We need a new social contract to guarantee well-protected jobs, equal pay and fair working conditions for all through collective bargaining, social dialogue, and social legislation. We will act to match the new social contract with a new economic model, to fight against unemployment, poverty, inequality, precariousness, informality, and social exclusion, particularly for women, youth, and in the informal, digital, and platform economies. We will fight to guarantee the right to quality public education, training, and lifelong learning. We will fight to ensure protection of health and safety of workers and universal access to health care, medicines, and vaccines as fundamental human rights. And we will mobilize against any forms of discrimination and violence at work and in society based on gender, age, sexual identity, ethnic or migration background, ideology, religion, or other grounds. The role of the ILO on this is paramount and has to be enhanced and further developed by defending and reinforcing tripartism, setting of standards, and their effective enforcement. I would like to celebrate the historic victory we achieved at this year's ILC by winning recognition that a safe and healthy working environment is a fundamental right. Now and again, it will be up to us to make sure that all fundamental principles, rights, and conventions of the ILO won't just stay on paper, but are implemented and enforced by increasing trade union power. Brothers and sisters, as a candidate, I am firmly convinced that increasing global trade union power must be our fundamental common objective. We can achieve this together if we strengthen international solidarity and socio-political action, but also reinforce internal cooperation and unity. We must support each other in building stronger social dialogue and collective bargaining and in protecting workers and trade union rights everywhere. I am committed to increase coordination and mutual exchange between the ITUC leadership, the regional organizations and structures, and national trade union centers. I plan to visit all of you during the next mandate, if I'm elected, to understand the problems and needs in each of your country and bring you concrete solidarity, support, and action of the ITUC. I will work to reinforce the cooperation with the global unions and with the trade union representatives in the ILO, in ITUC, and in tripartite and multilateral structures where we can play a role in the interest of workers. It will be essential to strengthen the role of ITUC bodies, deliver effective planning and internal decision-making, intensify democratic participation and inclusion. We will have to further optimize human and financial resources and ensure that financial support is transparent and equal. We will have to make sure that the ITUC is a strong and inclusive global trade union where everybody has a voice and feels at home. Women and men, people of all sexual identities, migrants and indigenous people. We have to guarantee that all groups and minorities are given an opportunity and feel protected by the movement. And we must give young people a real chance to develop as they wish. The movement needs them. They are our future, and it is their right to build it with us. Comrades and friends, I think that the ITUC has achieved many important successes over last mandates, and I want to congratulate and express my admiration and gratitude to Sharon and her team for the impressive work they have delivered. Thank you very much, Sharon. Thank you very much, all of you, comrades and friends, and be sure we will continue your work. Of course, as all of us, I have my own style and background, and if elected, there are things that I will change or I will do differently. My roots are in the Italian progressive and widely representative trade union movement, based on collective bargaining and organizing, on social dialogue and institutional negotiations, on strong mobilizing capacity and defense of democracy and peace. Over 33 years in the trade unions, I have been active at workplace, sectoral, local, national, European, and global level. I have negotiated and signed many collective agreements in my life and bargained legislation and restructuring processes. I've been acting in Europe, but also in international forums, and I've built cooperation with many of you, with brothers and sisters in the Mediterranean area, in Africa, in Latin America, in North America, and in Asia. I feel in myself living the cultures of Europe and the Latin world at the same time, of the North and the global South. To be a trade union leader, I've learned how important it is to ensure democracy and consensus. It's about involving and consulting all members, sharing information and knowledge, listening and understanding so we can make better decisions together. And it's also about implementing in practice, in our daily work, the values of equality, inclusion, non-discrimination, and democratic participation. I am deeply convinced that the global trade union movement has to do more for gender equality. We need to go further and ensure full gender parity in our internal life. We have been working together at this Congress to make gender representation fully respected in the composition of the future leadership, and I know we will succeed. But if I'm elected, I am committed that in the framework of the discussion of the review of our Constitution, full gender parity will have to be ensured in all our elections, including for the Secretariat of the ITUC. Brothers and sisters, I am very proud of the overwhelming support you have given me, and this has been an extraordinary democratic process that will lead today to an election. Let's make sure together that this moment of democracy makes the ITUC stronger in unity and solidarity. When I joined the movement, I did so because I believed that trade unions are best placed to make the world more just, equal and inclusive, a community of solidarity where everybody can enjoy a decent and fair life. I still hold this belief, and I would be enormously honored to lead the ITUC as your General Secretary, doing my best to deliver for working people during a time of crisis and help shape a new vision for peace, democracy, sustainable recovery and social justice. Merci beaucoup pour votre attention et votre soutien. Viva la Confederación Sindical Internacional. Solidarity to this fantastic Congress.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, on your behalf, let me thank our two candidates. We have heard from them, and we will then adjourn this session, and voting will open from 12:45 to 2:30, or when the voting process is actually completed, and it's going to be in room 101. I request that leaders of delegation should go and cast their vote, and don't forget to carry your identity, because each leader of delegation will then be identified before casting your vote. Also, colleagues, don't forget that the Congress Forum will also continue from 15 hours to 18 hours. In this hall, we'll have the Inclusive Union Movement, and also in Melbourne 1 Hall, we'll have the Congress Forum on Organizing. So as our leaders go to cast their vote, I urge others after the lunch break to go and attend those two forums. And once again, don't forget that tomorrow by 8:45, every delegate is expected to be seated in this room. And lastly, I want to once again remind us that you need to carry your identity to go and cast your vote. Thank you very much. I therefore bring this session to a close. Thank you very much for your cooperation. Thank you very much.